Hey, what's up guys, it's your boy KCM What Ifs. Today we are gonna be reading Naruto, the next god of Shinobi, or what if Naruto was trained by Hiruzen and became the god of Shinobi. So sit back, relax and enjoy. The walk down the flight of stairs was a long and dark one. Enko advised her team to stay sharp and to prepare for anything. The team was careful not to trip any traps on their long way down. They began to ask more questions about this place, but Enko kept her mouth shut. It put them off a bit, but they continued to follow her down. Enko sighed a bit and did feel bad about how she was treating her team. Still, this was her problem and she didn't feel that it was right to bring them into it. That man was hers to kill and no one else. They finally reached the bottom of the stairs and were now looking down a dark and long corridor. They were still on high alert and wary of traps. Surprisingly, it didn't take long for them to reach a dark room. Son of a bitch, I can't see a damn thing. Jacken cursed. Me neither, is there a light switch around here? Naruto asked. Hang on, I know where it is. Enko said and left the team. She reached the wall and felt where she remembered where it was. She found it and flicked it on. What the team saw would forever haunt them. What the? Naruto said in shock. Oh my god. Yakumo whispered. This is. I can't believe this. Jacken spoke in amazement. Surrounding them were tanks filled with unknown creatures. These didn't look like regular animals at all. Some of them looked to be passing their expiration date. Yakumo couldn't take it anymore and found a spot to throw up. Naruto and Jacken held it in some, but they looked ready to follow Yakumo's example. When Yakumo could speak again, she turned toward her sensei. Is this some type of sick joke? What the hell is this place? She shouted. I didn't ask you three to come with me. You should have headed back to the village. Enko said calmly. Okay, I've had enough of you. Your bitchy attitude has finally run its course. You tell us what the hell this place is and tell us now. Jacken shouted. Enko glared at him. Who do you think you're talking to? We're talking to an irresponsible jonin who needs to grow up. Naruto added. How the hell are we to complete this mission when you completely shut us out? I don't really care what your problem is, but you're putting us at risk. Enko looked on as all the members of her team glared at her in defiance. She scoffed at them, but she would give them what they wanted. We are currently in one of the labs that was constructed by Orochimaru. What you see around you is the result of his experiments. Enko said with an even tone. Orochimaru, the Sannin Orochimaru? The second most dangerous missing nin ever from Konoha, he did this? Jacken exclaimed. Yes, and our mission is to gather information about what he was doing here. Enko said. You could have told us that is what we were doing here. Why did you keep this from us? Naruto demanded. That's none of your business. Enko snapped. She took a breath and looked at her team. Now that you know what the mission is, let's get to work. She said and walked off. The team looked at her retreating back with scowls. This is going to be one of those days. Jacken said with a sigh. I can't believe that she didn't tell us about this. What is her problem? Yakumo asked. It's much deeper than she's letting on. Naruto said. I agree with you there, Pipsqueak. It's like she has a grudge against Orochimaru. Jacken added. Who doesn't have a grudge with him? Old man Hokage was his teacher, and every time he speaks of his students, he talks of him as being his one greatest regret. Naruto explained. So what are we going to do? I hate to say it, but we have to look out for ourselves until we get out of here. Yakumo said. I'm with her. We can't rely on Enko at all. Jacken said. Agreed, Naruto said and placed his fingers in a cross. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 2 copies of Naruto appeared. I'll hang with Enko-sensei and you guys go with my clones. We should use our headsets to keep in touch. The other two nodded and pulled out their headsets. They set the channel that they were going to be on and tested them. They wished each other luck as they went their separate way. Unknown to them, a pair of eerie yellow eyes watched them. She had a small smile on her face as she listened in on their conversation. A large python slithered across her shoulders and she lovingly petted it. Well, this has turned out quite interesting. Let's have some fun with them. Anko was searching one of the rooms when she felt someone approaching. Naruto entered the room and her eyes narrowed a bit. Naruto didn't look fazed by it. So what happened? You drew the short straw and have to deal with me. Anko mocked. Say what you want. Let's just find something and get out of here. Naruto said rudely. Anko didn't look insulted and continued her search for something important. The two of them continued their search in complete silence. After minutes of not talking, Anko got bored. She looked at her student. So, you've been acting all high and mighty during these few hours. You think just because the Hokage trained you that you can talk to people how you want to? She asked. No, I only talk to people like that when they are being stupid or ignorant. You should have informed us of the mission. In fact, I think the old man was wrong in giving you this mission in the first place. Naruto answered. Oh really? I didn't hear any objections when you guys continued along with me. Wasn't it you who didn't want to miss out on your first C-rank mission? Anko asked mockingly. Yeah, I admit that, but you've acting like we don't matter and it has something to do with your problem with Orochimaru. Naruto argued. Like I told you before, it's none of your business. Anko growled. You made it our business when this mission began. How do you expect us to become a team when you go off on your own like that? How are we to trust you when you won't trust us? Naruto shouted. Anko took a step back as Naruto yelled at her. She was shocked that he was talking to her like a child. Naruto scoffed and placed 2 fingers on his neck. Hey you guys, you got anything for me? What's your status? Jacken heard Naruto's voice over the radio and placed his fingers to his neck. All's quiet over on this end. Nothing to report. Jacken said. He looked at the room he was in. The place reeked of old blood and chemicals. He guessed that Orochimaru did his most gruesome experiments in this room. He could still see the dry blood on the ground and walls. This guy was one sick customer. That's something we agree on. Clone Naruto said in agreement. Did the Hokage tell you anything about this guy Pipsqueak? Jacken asked. Nope, he was pretty tight-lipped about him. All I really know was that he was considered a genius in ninjutsu and that he wished to know every jutsu known in the world. That's crazy and impossible. He would grow old and feeble. Besides, there is always a new jutsu coming out. He would have to be immortal if he ever wanted to do such a thing. Clone Naruto was about to answer him when they both heard something. It sounded like rattling. Jacken looked at the clone. I'm not hearing things, am I? Jacken asked. Only if I'm not hearing the same thing. He answered. I was afraid of that. The two turned and were faced with a large and mean-looking rattlesnake. It bore its fangs at the two and was coiled. Jacken placed his fingers to his neck. We've got a problem. Jacken reported. The snake lunged at them. At the same time Yakumo was searching the computer for information. That's when she got Naruto's call. I've found nothing so far. It seems like the computer was wiped clean. Yakumo reported. She continued to search through the computer just in case there may be something in the hard drive. She suddenly came across something that looked interesting. She saw the file name. Project Yugo, I wonder what that is. She was about to get on her radio when Naruto's clone pulled her away from the computer. He did it just in time as something crashed into the console. When they got their bearings, they were very surprised to see a large cobra looking at them. They clearly saw the serpent's intentions as it launched itself at them. Naruto heard Yakumo's scream over the radio and got worried. "Hey guys, what the hell is going on?" Naruto shouted. Enko was curious as well and moved closer to listen. Jacken was the first to answer. I can't talk right now. I'm trying to avoid becoming dinner for a rattlesnake. Check back later." Jacken sarcastically replied. "Someone else is here and they have sent some very large snakes after us," Yakumo reported. Enko's eyes widened in shock and ripped the head off Naruto. "Yakumo, Jacken, report your positions now," Enko ordered. "I believe that you have to be more concerned about yourself." The two turned to the voice and Enko was even more shocked at who she saw. Her eyes blazed with rage. "You! Hello my dear Enko, did you miss your dear old sensei?" Orochimaru asked. Enko roared and charged at him. The man just smiled and took off. Enko was hot on his heels. Naruto put it back on his radio and relayed it back to his team. "Send your positions to me, I'll send more clones to back you up," Naruto said as he ran out after Enko. He had to jump back as the huge boa nearly ate him up. He watched as the snake blocked his path and growled. He touched his neck. "Looks like we're all in trouble. We have to beat these things and help Enko-sensei." The boa charged at Naruto, who prepared himself for a fight. Enko ran after Orochimaru with urgency. She chucked kunai after kunai at him but the slippery man dodged them all. Finally having enough, Enko thrust her hand forward. "Sanaijishu," she shouted. 4 snakes shot out of herself and launched toward Orochimaru. The man saw this and used his chakra to push himself forward. He jumped and twisted in mid-air to avoid the attack. He descended to the ground of a large stadium. As he landed, he was about to take off when he was stopped by several kunais. Orochimaru turned to face Enko, who had jumped down to confront him. "I've been waiting for this day. Now it's time to end you," Enko said and got into a stance. Suddenly Orochimaru began to laugh at Enko, but what confused her was that this voice was female. He looked at her with a smile. "Sorry dear," the female voice said. Enko watched as the facade of Orochimaru faded and was replaced by a girl no older than 11. "You're going to have to wait a bit longer for your revenge." "Who the hell are you?" Enko demanded. "The name is Midoshi. You can call me an acquaintance of that pale-skinned freak master of yours," Midoshi answered. "So he's not here?" "Nope, it's just me. I was beginning to think that this trip would be a bore, but it turned out very interesting. It wasn't hard to get you away from your team, which surprises me. I thought Konoha valued teamwork and all that." Enko cursed at the fact that she was easily led on. She needed to get to the brats before those snakes ended their lives. Midoshi noticed where her mind was and put a stop to it. With a shout, she blew the entrance up on both sides of the crater. Enko watched as the entrances were blocked. Now, I went through all that trouble to separate you from them," Midoshi said sweetly. Enko growled at her. "What the hell do you want from me?" Enko spat. "Just a little spar. Orochimaru spoke very highly of your skills. If you impress me enough, I may let you continue to summon my..." Enko was shocked at that revelation. "Are you ready yet? I do get terribly bored. You picked the wrong day to fuck with me, girly. Get ready to die," Enko said and charged at the young woman. Midoshi just smiled. Jacken dodged another lunge of the rattlesnake. He countered by throwing several shuriken at its exposed side. They didn't seem to faze it as the serpent attempted to crush him with its rattle tail. Jacken rolled out of the way and started to launch more shuriken. The rattlesnake's head was his target and he distracted it with his very good aim. Clone Naruto struck from above and stabbed the snake in the neck. It roared and drove its head toward the wall to dislodge the clone. The clone jumped as the rattlesnake crashed into the wall. The clone and Jacken stood together as the rattlesnake shook the cobwebs out. "Alright, this has gone on long enough. It's time to get serious," Jacken said, and he reached into his backpack. He pulled out a weapon and prepared himself to fight. The clone looked at the weapon and saw that he was holding a kusarigama. The blade of the sickle was a bit longer than a regular kusarigama, and it was curved to look like a hook. The ball end of the weapon had spikes surrounding it. Jacken began to spin the chain with the ball attachment and moved slowly to his left. The rattlesnake followed his movement and readied itself to strike. It made its move and rocketed toward Jacken. Jacken jumped back and landed on the wall. Using his chakra, he pushed himself off the wall and jumped toward the ceiling at an amazing speed. The snake missed him by inches and slammed into the wall. He wasted no movement and launched his weapon at the rattlesnake. The chain was long enough and it wrapped around the snake's neck, the spiked ball digging into its skin. Jacken pulled himself forward and landed on the snake. He then proceeded to stab the snake repeatedly. The rattlesnake frantically tried to get him off. Jacken continued his assault of the snake, gripping the chain so that he wouldn't fall off. The snake was angry and used its rattle tail to attack. Jacken barely saw it coming and had to stop hacking to avoid it. The snake then began to move its head. The movement of its head loosened the chain. With a final lift, the chain was loose enough for escape. It caught the chain in its mouth and flung Jacken toward the wall. Jacken hit the wall hard and slid to the ground with a groan. Seeing the offender in his sights, the snake made a lunge. "Jacken, close your eyes," the clone shouted. Jacken did as he was told, and the clone threw several paper balls at the incoming snake. When it was close enough, the balls exploded and consumed the room in a black powder. Naruto, who had on goggles, picked up Jacken and made his way out of the room. The snake was slamming itself against the walls and howled in pain. "Can I open my eyes now?" Jacken asked. "Yeah, we're out of the room," Clone Naruto said. Jacken opened his eyes and began to fall in step with the clone. "What the hell did you do, Pipsqueak?" he asked. "Homemade pepper bombs, I never leave home without them. They are way stronger than any regular one," the clone explained. Jacken nodded and the two continued to run. Their run was cut short when the rattlesnake slammed into the both of them, sending them flying across the hall and into a room. Jacken landed on a table that was filled with beakers. The glass scraped him up, but not too badly. When he and the clone looked up, they saw that the snake was not happy. It hissed and opened its mouth wide. The clone kicked Jacken away as the rattlesnake descended. Jacken rolled for a bit and saw that the snake had the clone in its jaw. He growled at the snake as its jaw closed. Now he was alone and the snake would turn its attention to him. "What I wouldn't give for a Katan Jutsu right now. What the hell is that smell?" he wondered. He realized that it was him. He took a look of his surroundings and saw that the room was filled with beakers, all of them had a liquid in them. Could they be chemicals? An idea came to Jacken. He began to twirl his kusarigama at different angles. It moved in a way that the rattlesnake had trouble getting to him. It hissed when the weapon cut its skin if it got close. Jacken's weapon was also breaking the beakers around the room. The chemicals began to fall on the ground and pooled together. Jacken saw smoke forming as more chemicals merged together. He suddenly realized that he might be caught in his plan. That's when he caught sight of an empty oil drum. Stopping what he was doing, he made a dash for the drum. He threw it over himself as the rattlesnake made its way toward him. That's when a spark came out of mixed chemicals. The explosion was loud and shook the ground. Jacken just kept himself in a ball until he thought it was over. After a while, Jacken didn't hear anything. He used his weapon to cut the barrel open. He used his back and feet to push the barrel apart. He surveyed the damage and was amazed at the destruction. He made a note, never to do that again. He reached for the radio when he realized that it was busted. Ignoring his cuts, Jacken took off in search of his teammates. Yakumo threw some more shurikens at the cobra, but they did little to bother the snake. She was beginning to get tired as she was not as physically strong as her teammates. While not frail, she couldn't do long battles. She had already lost the clone Naruto sent with her, and now she was playing hide, seek and dodge with the large cobra. She did have one chance against the beast, however she was scared. Her fear was that she had not used her sealed powers since the fire those years ago. As Jiraiya told her, her seal would allow her to use her Kekkei Genkai without losing control. He also told her that she would have to train her mind constantly. Her uncle had her do some mental exercises along with a Yamanaka as added insurance. They did help, yet she was still scared of what might happen if it got out of control. She shook her head and banished such thoughts. Her teammates needed her help. She needed to distract the cobra. Tajubunshin no Jutsu, Yakumo said. The cobra heard her and made a move to get her when copies of her jumped out and ran around the room. The cobra was confused and was randomly attacking her clones. The clones took a page out of Jacken's book and began to sling insults at the cobra. Yakumo, the real one, began to focus her power. She could feel it coursing through her. She opened her eyes that were now glowing red. She quickly did hand seals and called out her attack. Megan, Jigaku Koka no Jutsu, Yakumo shouted. The room got dark and the cobra found itself alone. It began to feel heat and turned to see a huge fireball descending on it. It crashed into it, burning it to a crisp. The cobra hissed as it got burnt. It fell to the ground on fire. It wiggled for a while before it stopped and fell dead. The light came back and Yakumo was on her knees. She was very tired and weak right now. She reached for her pouch and pulled out a soldier pill. She popped it in her mouth and waited a few seconds for her chakra to return. Holy hell, what the hell happened here? A voice shouted. Jacken, is that you? Yakumo shouted. Jacken appeared in front of her and she sighed in relief. Did you do this? I didn't know you knew Katan Jutsus, he said. I don't. That was the work of my Kekkei Genkai. I had to use it to win. Yakumo explained. Jacken looked back to see the cobra that was burned badly on one side. Remind me never to piss you off to use that power. Jacken jokes. Yakumo smiled and stood up. Come on, let's find the pipsqueak. Yakumo nodded and the two ran out of the room. Naruto was not having a good time with this boa. He was trying to come up with a plan to get rid of the summons. He had his clones attack it with little success. He needed to take the snake out and fast. He had heard an explosion and was worried about his teammates. Suddenly, he remembered that he had a summons of his own. He bit into his thumb and smeared the blood on his forearm where the monkey tattoo was. He slammed his hand on the ground. Kuchios no Jutsu, Sora, Naruto shouted. From out of the smoke, a damp-looking monkey appeared. The monkey was surprised when he caught sight of the person who called him. You again, what do you want? I was relaxing, Sora said. I'm sorry, but I need your help, Naruto said and pointed to the boa who just batted away 2 more clones. Sora turned back to Naruto. No way, see you later, Sora said uninterested. What? You're just going to leave? Naruto shouted. Look, I'm not cut out for this fighting stuff. I just want to soak in some hot water. I'll see you later, Sora said. Naruto was beside himself, but he took a couple of deep breaths before coming up with a plan. Suddenly, one came to mind. How about this, you help me now and I promise to get you into the old man's private hot spring, Naruto said. Sora stopped himself and thought about it. He did remember that spring as he was actually summoned by Sarutobi near it. That was a really good soak. Okay then, but I'll hold you to that. In fact, let's make that a condition when you summon me. Sora said. Fine, it's a deal. Naruto said. Sora nodded and jumped into the air. He transformed into a Naginata. Naruto smirked as he was trained with such a weapon. He caught Sora and gave him a few spins. After he got used to him, Naruto took up a stance. He launched himself at the boat. The boa didn't see him coming and was stabbed in the eye. The snake hissed in pain and flailed around. Naruto dislodged the weapon from his eye and jumped to the ceiling. He used his chakra to push off and drove the Naginata into its head. The snake lurched forward and hit the ground with a thud. Naruto fell to his knees as the boa was no longer moving. He pulled out Sora and held him in his hand. He didn't have time to savor the victory as he wanted to find his teammates. He ran out of the room in search of them. He didn't get 2 steps out the door when he ran into them. Naruto, you're alright. Yakumo said in relief. I knew that you wouldn't die, Pipsqueak. Jacken said. Yeah, I'm glad that you guys are alright too. We need to find Anko and get the hell out here. This mission is kind of a bust. Naruto said. They nodded at the idea and ran off to find Anko. The sound of steel rang through the room as Anko and Midoshi made another pass at each other. Midoshi looked barely winded as Anko was breathing quite hard. Midoshi smirked at her. Well, I do admit that you are good, but I would expect better from one of Orochimaru's students. Midoshi crowed. I am so going to show you your guts. Anko growled. So you say, but I'm barely winded while you're sucking up wind. I just don't see that happening. Midoshi said with a smirk. Anko snarled at her and thrust her hand out. Sanaijishu. Anko shouted. 4 black mambas made their way to Midoshi. Please, Midoshi said and held her hand out as well. Sanaijishu. The tattoo on her arm transformed into a huge python and ate the mambas in one bite. Surely you have something much better than that. I'm starting to get bored here. Anko growled and threw several shurikens at her. Midoshi dodged the projectiles and dodged Anko's kick. She continued to dodge the taijutsu assault with relative ease. Anko just couldn't get a hit on her. She was suddenly swept off her feet by the veil on Midoshi's waist. Anko fell on her back but was quick to roll to her side as the veil stabbed the ground next to her. It kept on stabbing until Anko was out of range. Anko rolled to her feet and glared at her opponent, who was yawning. She needed to wipe that condescending smirk off her face. She calmed herself and started to form a plan. She took out a smoke bomb and threw it to the ground. Midoshi smirked as 2 clones came out of the smoke, charging at her. They attacked her, which Midoshi easily defended. Suddenly an arm shot out of the ground with a kunai aimed at her. Not bad, she's made this more interesting. Midoshi thought. She bent back to avoid the stab and kicked the kunai out of her hand. She flipped back to her feet and kicked the feet from under one of the clones. She then kicked the other clone 3 times and dispelled it with a vicious spinning hook kick. She then used her veil to stab the other clone in the stomach, dispelling it. 4 snakes appeared and caught her, forcing her to the ground. Fire shot out from underground and crashed into the trapped Midoshi. Anko popped out of the ground and was looking at the burning corpse. She was still alert as she neared the body. What she saw was discarded skin. Anko suddenly felt something cut into her side. She cried and jumped back to see Midoshi cloth. Midoshi jumped out of the ground and charged at Anko. Anko's injury slowed her down as Midoshi used taijutsu to attack. Anko defended as best as she could, but Midoshi proved to be faster than your average 12-year-old. The wound to her side was not helping her. Midoshi took advantage and kicked her where the wound was. Anko hit the ground in pain. Midoshi looked at her with disappointment. I was expecting a bit more out of you, but I guess that's that. I've grown bored of you and I have a job to do," Midoshi said. Her veil prepared to strike her when an explosion caught her attention. From out the smoke, a ball with spikes came at her. She moved to get out of the way. As she landed, a blonde with a naginata appeared and attacked her. She was very surprised by the skill and speed at which he was wielding the weapon. Jacken kept Naruto covered while Yakumo got Anko out of the way. Midoshi ducked under Naruto's swing and attempted to kick him. Naruto blocked her kick with the weapon but saw the veil around her waist come at him. Jacken countered with his Kuzurigama and pulled her veil, causing her to be off balance. Naruto stabbed the blade into the veil and kicked Midoshi 2 times. He swung around the weapon and planted 2 feet into her chest, sending her flying. Midoshi stood to face her attackers. Naruto held his naginata out while Jacken spun the spike ball above his head. Jacken was the first to attack, throwing the ball at her. She dodged it and charged. Naruto met her charge and the two were engaged in another round. Jacken joined in the fray. Midoshi was having trouble fighting the two of them as they were in sync with each other. "Guys, I'm ready. You need to get back here," Yakumo shouted. Naruto and Jacken disengaged and made their way toward Yakumo and Anko. Midoshi wasn't about to allow that to happen and ready to summon another serpent. Suddenly, she found herself unable to move. She struggled against this invisible force when the ground under her collapsed. She looked down to see a huge lava pool and it looked ready to erupt. Midoshi smirked as she realized that this was a genjutsu set up by the girl. She released a bit of chakra to dispel it but she found that she couldn't. She used a bit more of her chakra to break out of it but she couldn't. That's when the pool of lava erupted. Midoshi's eyes went wide as the lava consumed her. The team looked on as Yakumo focused her chakra through her drawing. Yakumo suddenly pitched forward but she was caught by Jacken. He placed her on his back and secured her. Naruto used his clones to carry Anko and together they left. Unknown to them, Midoshi was on the other side of the room as she watched the image disappear. She summoned a large group of snakes to surround her. One of them caused enough pain to get her loose. She escaped just as the lava consumed her. She took several breaths to calm herself. She looked to see that the snakes she used were dead and burnt to a crisp. A genjutsu that causes actual damage, something like that exists within Konoha? She thought. Midoshi decided not to pursue them. She had done her task and she was now heading back to the base. In her mind, she was curious about this team of Ankos. It was now night and Team Anko took time to rest. Naruto set up traps while Yakumo tended Anko. Jacken, who was already taken care of, was cooking up the remaining rations that survived the mission. The group was deathly quiet. Even as Yakumo tended to Anko, she said nothing to her. Naruto came back and told his team that the traps are set. Anko saw that he was only directing that to his teammates and not her. When dinner was done, her team took some of it and sat at the other side of the camp. Anko sighed at this but did nothing against it. She deserved this for her actions against the team. She was warned by the Sandaime not to allow her feelings to get in the way but it did. She left her team to fight alone because she saw who she believed to be Orochimaru. She treated them lower than dirt when this mission began. She was only trying to protect them but she alienated them instead. Anko ate alone again and it hurt. Hiruzen was always a perceptive shinobi. He developed it as he got older and passed it along to his students. It was a skill he passed along to Naruto as well. That's why he was not surprised by what was being reported to him by Anko. As he listened to her report, he observed her team. He could see the displeasure in their faces of being near Anko. It seems that his warning to her had gone unheard. Anko finished her report and he straightened himself up. Very well then, I can't call this mission a success as we gained nothing from this. I will, however, look into this Midoshi child. If she is this skilled, then she may be a problem in the future. Hiruzen said. He looked at Anko's genins. You three may leave now and consider yourselves on leave for a week. Thank you, Hokage-sama. They said and left his office quickly. He noticed that they didn't even spare Anko a glance as they left. Hiruzen saw that she took it all without complaint. He looked at her for a while before lighting the tobacco in his pipe. He blew out some smoke and sighed. It was my mistake to trust you with this mission. I thought that you would put the needs of their lives ahead of your pain. What do you have to say for yourself, Mitarashi? He asked seriously. I have no excuse, sir. I did put myself ahead of the squad and they were almost killed because of my past. For my actions, I am ready to face my punishment. Anko said. Oh, and what should your punishment be? He asked. I will immediately resign as a shinobi of Konoha. I do not deserve such an honor after my actions. She said. Hiruzen looked at her before taking another puff. Your request is denied. But sir, you're just running away from this issue and I refuse to allow that. You created this mess with your team and you will fix it. They have the potential to be great and you have the potential to be a great leader. I will not allow you to run away from this. Hiruzen explained. Anko sighed and looked down at her feet. They do not trust me nor do they respect me. I don't think I can plead my case to them. Anko said sadly. Then consider this a challenge as you have in the past. I remember a young woman who didn't let the words of some idiot stop her from becoming the most feared kunoichi in Konoha. Hiruzen said with a smile. Anko blushed at the praise. Hiruzen walked up to her and placed a hand on her shoulder. You are not your sensei and he made a mistake in throwing away your devotion for him. It will be a mistake that he will come to regret, I assure you. You have the chance to do what he could not. They will need you, don't abandon them. Anko nodded and left the office. It was a rare sight that Ibiki Marino walked in on. He was at a local bar that he took his people to when the day was over. At the bar, his number one wasn't drinking. He saw the bottle of sake and he saw that she had some in a cup but she wasn't drinking. He decided to see what was up with his number one. This is a rare sight indeed. Mitarashi Anko, not shit-faced and dancing. Ibiki jokes. He looked at the bartender and put up 2 fingers. He turned his attention back to her. It was a joke, Mitarashi. I'm not in the mood for jokes or drinking right now, Scarface. Anko said. Yep, it's all right. I was getting worried that we had a spy in the place. He saw. The bartender returned and placed 2 small sake bottles in front of him. He thanked the bartender and turned his attention back to her. I heard about your mission. You really screwed up. I know, all right. I don't need you riding my ass about it. Anko snapped. I am your superior, so I have an opinion and my opinion is that you screwed up. Don't forget, Anko, I'm one of the few who isn't scared of you. Anko scoffed and returned to looking at her drink. Ibiki took a sip of his sake before he spoke again. So what are you going to do? I don't know. They hate me and they have a right to. My actions could have gotten them killed. Can I offer you some advice? Ibiki asked. Anko made a motion for him to continue. Move on and put it in the past. You have an opportunity to train 3 ninja who probably will be great in the near future. Orochimaru will still be around for you to get your answers, but for now you have to live in the present. Our past is our past, we learn from it and move on. Ibiki said. Anko looked at him with surprise. That was deep. You must really be sick to your stomach at this moment. Anko jokes. I do need to take a shower, yes, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong. Ibiki said. Anko chuckled and looked at her drink. Live in the present, huh? She muttered. She gulped down the cup of sake. She slammed the cup down and let out a loud cheer. A round of sake on Ibiki. Hey! Ibiki shouted as the crowd cheered. The next day found Naruto eating his breakfast. He was eating his ramen and had a small carton of milk next to him. Ramen and milk, you have some weird taste, kid. A voice said. Naruto turned to see Anko at his window. What do you want? Naruto asked rudely. Meet me at Area 44 in 20 minutes. Don't argue with me and just do it. Anko ordered before disappearing. Naruto looked at the window before he sighed. He forgot about breakfast and went to get ready. Yakumo was feeding birds when she saw Anko standing outside her compound gates. She was curious and made her way to the front. Anko waited patiently as Yakumo approached. The two guards were glaring at her when they saw the heiress arrive. Mitarashi-san, what is it I can do for you? She asked. I need you to report to Training Ground 44 in 20 minutes. Anko said. But the Sandame gave us the week off. Yakumo said with an edge. Yes, but we need to talk. If I have to kidnap you, I will. Anko threatens. That did not go over well with the guards who reached for their tantos. Yakumo looked at Anko, who had a serious expression on her face. As you wish, I will be there. Yakumo said. Thank you. Anko said and left the area. Yakumo made her way to the house as the guards tried to reason with her. Jacken stepped out of his apartment to do some shopping when Anko appeared in front of him. The two glared at each other before Jacken relented and sighed. Can I help you? He asked harshly. Area 44, 20 minutes, be there. Anko said. And what if I refuse? Jacken asked. You don't want to know. She said and disappeared using a shunshin. Jacken decided to be on the safe side and agree to the psycho's request. Naruto entered the area in his civilian clothes. He noticed that Jacken and Yakumo were there as well, also in their civilian clothes. As he walked, he felt that they were being watched. It wasn't Anko, but there seemed to be several of them that were surrounding the area. He walked up to his teammates and stood by them. You too, huh? He asked. Yep, got a clue on what this is about? Jacken asked. Nope, are you Yakumo? Naruto asked her. Not the slightest, Yakumo began when Anko appeared. Good, you came. I figured that I would have to do this the hard way. Anko said. She was greeted with silence. She sighed and steadied herself. Fine, you don't have to talk to me because all the talking will be done by me. First off, let me say this, I'm sorry. Those words caused everyone in the area to look at Anko in surprise. Jacken was the first to speak. Pinch me, I think I'm dreaming or under a genjutsu. He said. Yakumo did just that, causing Jacken to yelp in surprise. You said to pinch you. Yakumo said. I was freaking kidding. Jacken exclaimed. Anko chuckled at them and began to speak again. My actions on the mission were unacceptable even if I had reason to act that way. She said. What do you mean? Naruto asked. When I graduated from the academy, I wasn't placed on a team like you three. I became an apprentice to one of the Sannin. That Sannin was Orochimaru. She explained. She looked to see if she had their attention still and was happy that she did. All I know is that he saw great potential in me and wanted to further my skills. He taught a lot of forbidden jutsu and I helped him with some of his experiments. I just want him to please him any way I can. You can even say that I loved him a little bit. She got this sad look on her face. What happened? Asked Yakumo. I became one of his experiments. Anko said. She removed her coat and turned around. She motioned them forward and pulled her mesh suit down around her shoulder. The team saw a tattoo. That is called the Ten no Juin. It is a seal that gives the user incredible power but at the cost of your freedom. I and 9 others were given this seal. I was the only one to survive. After that, he abandoned me and left me to the mercy of Konoha. Anko pulled back up the mesh and picked up her coat. She put it back on and faced her team again. I'm not telling you this so you would feel sorry for me. I'm not telling you so you would understand. I'm telling you because you deserve to know why what happened. Anko said. The team knew that Anko was putting herself out there and they did understand a little about her actions. Still, there was the trust that she lost from that mission. Anko saw this and smiled. So, now that you know, you have a choice. Choice, they asked. Yes, this has made me realize how much I still have to go to be an instructor. I do believe that you all have potential and I do feel that we can all bring out that in each other. However, there is the lack of trust we have. So, by the end of the week, I will return here at 8. If you still wish for me to lead, then be here and we can continue. If you feel that I can't be trusted, then I will switch with someone you can trust. The team looked at each other before looking at her. Well brats, I'll see ya in a week or I'll see around. Anko said and was gone via Shunshin. The sun brought in a new day in Konoha. It awoke Anko, who sat up and yawned. She stretched her muscles out and scratched her head. She looked at her calendar and her mood dropped a bit. Today was the day that her fate would be decided. She looked to see that it was now 7:30 and she had 30 minutes to reach the training ground. She didn't want to get up, but she knew that she was being selfish if she did. Truth was, she enjoyed teaching a little. Their chance to mold 3 little brats into a likeness of her made her giddy. Still, she knew that they didn't trust her. Well, no use stalling. Let's get this over with. Anko thought. She made her way to Area 44. When she arrived, she was very surprised to see her team waiting for her. She walked up to them as they stood at attention. This is a surprise. Anko spoke. Well, I know how it feels to have secrets that you don't want to tell. Naruto said. I know what it is to be left alone when someone you think cares. Yakumo said. I believe in second chances. Jacken said. So you really want me as your sensei? I can't promise that something like this won't happen again. Anko said. Yeah, but like you said, we can learn from one another. While you teach us, we can teach you or make you forget or something. Naruto said. You think that you can teach me something? Anko said with humor. Anko looked at them with a smirk. Fine, you had your chance to escape, but now your asses belong to me. I'm going to train you little bastards in a supreme fighting force that can do anything and kill anything. This, my little prisoners, is a start of something new. Are you with me? Hi sensei, the team shouted. All right then, Anko shouted and slammed her hands onto the ground. The smoke cleared and a familiar reptile came into view. Mai hissed at the team and looked like she had a smirk on her face. The team took off as they didn't want to get caught. Anko jumped on Mai's head and the snake charged at them. The team continued to run as the insane laughter of Anko rang throughout the training ground. Midoshi twirled a kunai as she laid lazily in her room. Her mind wasn't on the various serpents that roamed around her room, it was on that team she encountered. While Anko was not impressive, her genin were. It was the only reason why she didn't remove her from the snake contract. A girl that could make genjutsu into reality was very interesting. She wondered if the other two were just as interesting as her. She decided to keep an ear out about this team. She figured that it might be fun down the road. What's your ET, Ghost? Anko's voice came over the radio. I'll be set in 2 minutes. Yakumo replied. Make it sooner. Bangs, Knuckles, get ready to move. Anko said. What were you smoking when you came up with these names? Ghost is the only good code name. Jacken asked harshly. At least you got the cooler name Bangs. Naruto said. What the hell are you talking about? I'm Knuckles, you're Bangs. Jacken argued. Anko listened in as the two continued to argue. "Hey, shut the hell up and get ready," Anko said through the radio. "I'm ready, sensei," Yakumo said. "Alright, commence operation," Anko said. Anko pulled out a telescope and looked in the direction of the T&I department. She watched as Yakumo casted her genjutsu over the building. Everyone was wondering what was going on. Anko heard her radio buzz. "Go Bangs. Told you so." Jacken cheered. "We're set and primed. We're making our exit," Naruto said. "Alright, Ghost, we are packing up," Anko said. "Roger that," Yakumo said. The genjutsu ended, leaving many to wonder what the hell was going on. After a while and finding nothing wrong, everything went back to normal. Ibiki entered his office to get some work done. He closed his door to get some privacy. Seconds later, there was an explosion that alerted the guards. They rushed to his office and busted down the door. What they saw surprised them greatly. Covered from head to toe with orange dye was Ibiki. His office was a mess as well. Ibiki wiped some dye away from his face. No one dared laugh even though it was the funniest sight they ever witnessed. Ibiki knew that only one person could have set this up. "I will remember this, Anko. Be sure that I will remember this. Your team will feel the sting of my revenge as well," Ibiki hissed. On the other side of the village, a chill went up Team Anko's backs. Naruto looked at their sensei. "Why do I feel that you've just sent us to an early grave?" he asked. "Don't worry about it. The worst that will happen is that I won't get any great interrogations for a month," Anko said. "I meant us," Naruto added. "Oh, you guys are screwed. I mean, you did very well with this little mock assassination, but Ibiki will find you and mess you up. He'll probably let you stew for a year before he strikes." Anko said it was nothing important. Her team looked at her with hate. The next day, the team was attempting to get back at their sensei for yesterday's little stunt. Anko held back and was smiling as she dodged kunais, staff strikes and Kusarigama attacks. They were really trying to lay her out today. "I'll admit you guys are really making me work today," Anko said in amusement. Naruto growled and increased his speed. Anko had to push herself a bit more as Naruto's thrust his staff at a rapid pace. She definitely didn't want to get bruised up. She was surprised when Naruto stopped his attack and jumped back. She was ensnared by vines that secured her to a tree. Jacken and Naruto were quickly doing seals. When they were finished, they unleashed their attacks. Futon, Detapa. "Wind release, great breakthrough," Naruto shouted. Katan, Karyudan. "Fire release, fire dragon missile," Jacken shouted. Fire and wind mixed together creating a huge ball of fire. Anko whistled as the attack consumed her. It also took out the tree and the 3 trees behind it. The two stopped their attack and waited for Anko to attack. "You think she's dead?" Jacken asked, holding his weapon at the ready. "No way, she's the devil. That fire probably was absorbed by her, a fire-breathing witch," Naruto said. "What a horrible thing to say," Anko said. The two turned to see Anko without her coat and she was sitting on her pet snake, Mai. Mai attacked them but she was suddenly overwhelmed by countless clones. Anko noticed that this was not the work of Naruto as the clones seemed to reform after being destroyed. This must be the work of Yakumo. They have greatly improved, but I think it's time to end this little game, Anko thought. She disappeared as Naruto and Jacken along with Yakumo's clones defeated Mai. They beat her enough to send her away. They realized that Anko was no longer around and readied themselves. That's when Yakumo's technique was cancelled and she was sent flying out of the tree line. Both teammates rushed to help her when they were suddenly caught by a net. The two struggled to get loose. When the hell did she set this up? Jacken shouted. He tried to cut through the net but his blade couldn't. Naruto did the same but his kunai couldn't cut through it either. Yakumo stayed perfectly still as Anko had used a black mamba to tie her up. Anko suddenly appeared and looked at her team. "You guys almost had me today. It was as if you really wished to do me harm." Anko jokes. Her team glared at her. "Still, you didn't cut me, so you know what that means." Anko happily munched on her dango. They were stacked up high on her plate. The owner, a retired ninja and friend of Anko, just shook his head. "I can't believe you. How can you do that to your own students?" he asked. "Hey, they didn't have to agree to my terms. Besides, it builds character." Anko explained. "What about the danger you placed them in with Ibiki? I know that he was incredibly displeased with how his office was. He needs to lighten up and take a joke." Anko said as she munched on her treat that her cute little genin paid for. As she ate, she heard a conversation. "So you're entering your team into the Chunin exams? Where is it to be held this time?" a man asked. "It's being held in Takigakure this time," the female jonin said. "You think that they are ready for such a challenge? I've heard that IWA will be in this year's exam," the man said. "I believe that they are ready. I've been pushing them hard and in 2 months, they will be hard to beat. Trust me, I believe in my team," Jonin said. Anko tuned out the rest of their conversation and stared off into space. If she had to admit, she believed that her team was close to being Chunin level. It had been 2 months since the C-rank mission that went to hell. After her students gave her a second chance, she poured herself into getting them ready for another C-rank mission. She worked them into the ground to get to that level. She worked with them on everything from chakra control to ninjutsu. She didn't do too many of those D ranks but made up several mock missions, which turned out to be various pranks against Jonin and Chunin. Their teamwork was up to par and they had gotten closer to the level she wanted. However, one thing nagged her. While her team was stronger, she didn't feel that they were there yet. Hell, they haven't even taken their first lives. Anko continued to eat but the fun of it had long worn off. It would be a week later when Anko finally decided to do something about her dilemma. It even affected her torturing of her breasts. She decided that she needed to talk to someone. She immediately crossed off Ibiki, so she decided to go to the Hokage. The secretary, who didn't like her, ushered her in the office. Hiruzen noticed the glare of her secretary and gave Anko an amused look. "What did you do to her, Anko?" he asked. "It isn't my fault her boyfriend was a horn dog. Besides, I was still going through a phase," Anko said with mirth. "Anyway, why did you need to see me, Anko? Is something wrong with the team?" "No, they're fine. They have grown quickly in such a short time." "No, I'm here because I have an issue that I was hoping to get some answers for," Anko said. "I'm listening," Hiruzen said. "As you know, the Chunin exams are coming up. I have confidence that my team is at a level that is considered Chunin level. However, I'm concerned that they do not have the mentally to take the exam. I know that these exams have fatalities and you're wondering if they have it in them to kill," Hiruzen said, cutting her off. Anko nodded at him. "I just want your advice on how I should handle this," Anko finished. Hiruzen knew what Anko was talking about. The Chunin exams didn't really begin until after the Third Ninja War. In his time, you got promoted by doing missions and finishing them with great skill. These exams were created as a way to promote wars among the nations, only this was legal. He understood what Anko was going through and he did have an answer for her. He was considering sending a team of Chunin to deal with this, but this would help Anko with her decision. Anko watched as he gave her a scroll marked with AC. Anko looked at it and back at the Hokage. "This should help you with your decision, Anko. You start this mission tomorrow," Hiruzen said. Anko bowed and left the office. Team Anko looked over the pit and observed it. The darkness kept them from being seen by the sentries. Anko looked through her telescope and saw where the prisoners were being held. Anko turned to her team. Okay, you know what we have to do. I'll be making my way toward the prisoners. You are to scale down from behind and sweep the area. Keep anyone in those huts from joining up with the majority of the bandits. Knock them out or kill them, but we have to keep them from joining up. Understood, she said. Yes, sensei, they said. Naruto, create 4 clones for each of you. Anko ordered. Naruto did as he told and the group separated. Jacken, Naruto and Yakumo, along with the clones, made their way behind the bandit camp. They all slowly walked down the side of the cliff. They all hit the ground and separated to a different hut. The first hit that was hit was by Naruto. He crept up to the hut and knocked out the 2 standing at the entrance. 2 clones tied them up while Naruto and the other 2 clones surrounded the house. Naruto pushed open the door carefully and he would be forever changed. What he saw was horrible. One of the bandits had a young teenager pinned to the bed. Her clothes were ripped and he was violently violating her. Her screams of pain and cries to stop fell on deaf ears. Naruto was enraged and felt Kyuubi's chakra. He moved with incredible speed and ripped the guy off the girl. He slammed the grown man into the wall and pulled out a kunai. He repeatedly stabbed the man, blood spraying the walls. He was about to stab him again until he saw the man's eyes. His eyes were filled with fear. He turned to the girl as she frantically tried to get away from him. He tried to calm her down, but she called him a monster. That froze Naruto to the core. The next hut was hit by Jacken. He and the clones surrounded the hut. Jacken gave the clones the signal and they entered the hut. They quickly dispatched the bandits before they made a sound. One, however, managed to get away and was escaping toward the back. Jacken, who was watching the back, was startled when someone came out. He saw that he was about to yell, so he silenced him. The Kama ripped into his flesh right where the heart was. He covered his mouth so he would not make a noise. When he finally stopped moving, Jacken got a good look at the person he killed and was shocked to see that he was his age. Why is there a guy my age here? Did I just kill a kid? He thought. The last hunt was Yakumo's. Using her genjutsu skills, the clones and herself managed to sneak up to the hut unseen. They all hit the hut quickly and took out the sleeping bandits. As they lay there, tied up and unconscious, Yakumo looked out of the hut to see a bandit approach. He had a little blood on his arm and was dragging something. That something was a young boy. A rope was around his neck. She shook in rage and unleashed some of Ito's power. The bandit saw Yakumo at the entrance of the hut and was scared as she was glowing. He wanted to make a break for it when some skeletal arms shot out of the ground and dragged the bandit down into it. The bandit cried out for his comrades, but it suddenly stopped when he appeared out of sight. Yakumo cancelled her technique and ran over to the little boy. She threw the rope off his neck and she began to do CPR in order to bring him back to life. This is the scene where Anko walks in on. Anko had taken care of the bandits with ease and released the hostages. She heard a scream and quickly made her way to the huts. She watched as her female student tried to bring the dead boy back to life. She looked for her other 2 students. Jacken came out from behind the second hut. The Kama looked bloody and Jacken was in a daze. Naruto exited the first hut and sat down on the steps. A young girl ran out wrapped in a cover. She saw that Naruto was covered in blood. He kept his focus on the ground. Anko sighed and went over to Yakumo. She tried to stop Yakumo, who slapped her hand away. She continued to do CPR, but Anko had enough and pulled her off him. She gave her a slap which caused her to look at her. Yakumo and Anko looked at each other before Yakumo started to cry. She embraced Anko and Anko placed her hand on her head to calm her down. She looked at her team and she finally had her answer. She just wondered how she was going to fix this. Anko looked at her team who were quietly sitting at the campfire. They were a half a day away from Konoha. She did not wish to keep her team at the village that they returned the prisoners to. While she would normally bathe in the praise, she saw how uncomfortable it made her team. Anko almost killed that girl who called Naruto a monster but settled for telling her off instead. Still, this was getting troublesome. She needed to get them out of this funk. Okay guys, start talking. Anko ordered. What are you talking about? Jacken asked. Tell me what's troubling all of you. Come on, let Auntie Anko calm your souls. She joked. Her team wasn't laughing and remained quiet. Anko sighed and leaned against the tree. I think back to my first kill. It was so long ago. She looked to see that she had their attention a little. It was when I was with the snake bastard of a sensei. He had me assassinate this merchant. The guy wasn't really an enemy to Konoha or anything, but it was something that I was ordered to do. What happened? Asked Naruto. I did the deed. His blood sprayed on me and all over his desk. I froze up and I stared at my hands. I was so out of it that I was nearly caught. I had a fear of blood for a while and I would throw up if I even saw a drop of it. After a while, I just got used to killing and I enjoyed it. That was until the last time I took a life. She said while looking at the fire. The last time you killed? Asked Jacken. It was a mission that included me and some others. I was so caught in my lust for blood that I killed one of my comrades. Seeing what I did, I froze again. When we got back, my commanding officer took me aside and talked with me. After that, I found a way to cope. So, what do you do to cope? Yakumo asked. Mostly sex, sometimes interrogations, I do a lot of various things. Anko jokes. That got a deadpan look from her team. Now that's my team. I know what you are feeling sucks. First kills are never easy and they never ease with time. They will be burned into your memory for the rest of your lives. You just have to find a way to cope with every life you take. If you become an emotionless zombie going through the motions, then you'll crack and spiral out of control. Anko explained. Wow, that was deep. Naruto said a surprise. Who the hell are you women? Jacken asked. I'll check for genjutsu. Yakumo added. Ha, 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 very funny, get some sleep. Anko said. They laughed and did as she said. Anko could see that they were in high spirits, but she wondered how long that would last. She decided that she would need to call in some more help. Naruto sat in his apartment, wasting time and eating ramen. His team was off duty for 2 weeks. The old man asked if he wanted to talk to someone about what happened, but he told him he was fine. The truth was, he was still saddened by the comment of the girl. He knew that he wasn't a monster, but her words brought back some painful memories. Memories of being chased and beaten flooded his brain and it gave him some nightmares. He sighed and stopped eating his ramen. Wow, you actually stopped eating ramen. The world must be ending. A voice said. Naruto was startled and looked toward his window. Sitting on the window was Kakashi Hatake. Naruto met the one-eyed shinobi while he was still a student of the Sandame. He was impressed with his mastery of the Kage Bunshin, shadow clones. Some months later, he appeared before him on his birthday and gave him a book on Bunshin Jutsu. It was from that book where he learned the Mizu Bunshin, water clone. Damn it Kakashi, stop doing that. Naruto shouted. Kakashi just gave him an eye smile. So, I heard that you got your first kill on your last mission. He said. You're not going to give me a pep talk, are you? Naruto asked. Nah, telling you about my first kill would be a waste of time. I do think that Anko is right about finding a way to cope. Why don't you get a hobby like I do? Kakashi said. I don't think they allow minors to buy porn. Naruto said with a deadpan voice. Well, do what you like to do. Remember the fun you had when you were 5. Kakashi said with an ice smile. Naruto looked confused before getting a thoughtful look on his face. The question was who would be his victim. Naruto suddenly got a wicked grin on his face. The Hyuga clan of Konoha was one of the strongest clans in Konoha. They carried themselves like they ran the place. Today, however, they were about to get humbled. Someone did the unthinkable and pranked the Hyugas. They weren't just pranked, they were completely embarrassed. Someone decided that it would be funny to spread the clan's underwear across the village. Who could have done such a thing to them? They got their answer from the shouts of the Hyuga clan members who were chasing a blonde. Get back here, Uzumaki. You'll pay for this humiliation. Your ass is ours when we catch you. Naruto Uzumaki kept running, laughing his ass off. He had to admit that he felt a lot better after pulling this prank. While he wasn't going to take another life anytime soon, he had an outlet that he could do. He turned back to his pursuers and saw Neji among them. Hey Neji, I didn't know you were so into silk undies. That's so feminine. Naruto jokes. He picked up the pace as Neji started to speed up. I'll get you for this, Uzumaki. Neji roared. Kakashi turned away from his book to witness the prank. He smiled and knew that Naruto would be fine. Jacken entered the ANBU prison that was hidden from the world. He knew where it was because his officer was the person who showed it to him. He entered the prison with the special badge that was given to him by his handler. He walked up to one of the people there. He got their attention by showing them the same badge. Can I help you? The man asked. Yeah, I'm looking for one of the guards here. His codename is Kuma. Jacken said. You're Jacken, right? The team nodded. Kuma is waiting at training ground 13. Jacken thanked the man and made his way to the training ground. It didn't take him long to arrive there and he saw Kuma throwing kunai at a target. He didn't turn around to face Jacken, who just walked onto the field. I'm surprised. Kuma spoke. I figured that you wouldn't seek me out so quickly. Yeah, well, I guess I needed someone to talk to. I really don't feel like visiting any of those Yamanaka shrinks. Jacken explained. What makes you think I can help you? Kuma asked. I don't know. I guess you can tell me about how you deal with killing. I know that as ninjas we are supposed to kill, but it isn't the same when you take the life of a kid. The fact that you feel remorse for this action proves that you're human. I don't feel human. Jacken said soberly. You want to know what I do to cope with the lives I take? Kuma asked. Jacken didn't say anything and stayed quiet. Kuma pulled out a leather book and threw it toward Jacken. Jacken opened the book and saw that there was nothing in the book. He looked back at Kuma and saw that he had a similar book. This book carries the lives of every person I've taken away. Some of them have names, others don't, but I place each and every one of those names in this book. Why would you do that? Jacken asked. They deserve to be remembered no matter if they are an enemy. In that book you can unleash your sorrows and your forgiveness and then put it away. You don't open that book unless you kill again, something that I hope you never have to do again soon. Kuma explained. So that's it? Say what's on my mind and then put it away. That sounds kind of cold. Jacken said. I never said that it wasn't. Try it and see if you can do it. Who knows, you may get what I'm saying to you. I'll give it a shot. Jacken turned and walked out of the training grounds. Kuma went back to his training when Jacken appeared again. Hey Kuma. I know Jacken, I know. Kuma said. Jacken nodded and left again. Under his mask, the ANBU member smiled. Yakumo was walking through the halls of her house in a trance. Her clansmen attempted to cheer her up, but it was not helping. She did thank them for trying. As she walked down the hall she caught the sound of a flute. The sound gave off a melancholy sound. Curious and intrigued, Yakumo followed the sound. It took her toward the family garden where her father sat. She was surprised to see that he was playing a bamboo flute so skillfully. She watched for a while and listened to the music that he played. When he was finished, Yakumo made her presence known. "You are certainly getting better, daughter. I really didn't recognize you there," Murakumo said. "You didn't become a shinobi father," Yakumo stated. "True, but my brother did train me to be aware," he explained. "Father, I did not know you knew how to play the flute. It is a hobby of mine. Plus, your mother's garden loves it when I play my music for them. Wouldn't they get sad because of how melancholy it sounds?" Yakumo asked. "So you noticed that? You are truly coming along. The reason for my mood and the sound is because I do not know how to make my dearest child feel better. Your uncle Unkai has spoken to you, but it has done little to make you feel better," Murakumo said. "I know where uncle is coming from, but I just can't get that boy out of my mind. I couldn't save him. I wish there was a way to say that I was sorry for failing," she said. Murakumo couldn't stand to see his daughter in such distress. He looked to his flute and to his daughter. "Would you like to learn how to play?" he asked. "Father, I don't think I have time," Yakumo said. "Don't be silly, come here," he ordered. Yakumo reluctantly moved over to him. He carefully showed her how to play. She played a few bad notes which caused her to giggle. Murakumo smiled as he spent such time with her. The two continued for the remainder of the day learning how to play the instrument. 2 weeks had passed and Team Enko was waiting for their sensei. She arrived on time and looked at her genin. She saw that they were in much better spirits than before. She gave them all an amused grin. "So, you guys look like you're back to normal. Did my students get a little lucky during their break?" Enko asked suggestively. "You and Kakashi need to get together at some point. The both of you are nothing but perverts," Naruto said. "Please, that one-eyed joker wouldn't know what to do with a woman like me." "So really, how are you guys doing?" Enko asked. "I'm getting over it. I don't think that kill will ever fade, but I found it better to write my apologies and put it behind me," Jacken said. Enko nodded and looked at Yakumo. "The life I couldn't save sucks, but I think that I've let it go. I even composed a song for him. My family really liked it," Yakumo said with a smile. "What about you, Naruto?" Enko asked. "I've been coping, and that kill made me realize that I still have a long way to go. It was fun getting back to my mischief ways and forgetting that I'm a ninja for a while," Naruto said. "Well then, I'm happy that you have found ways to cope with your kills. How about we go and get us a D-rank mission?" Enko said. The team cheered and made their way toward the tower. Enko looked on as her team conversed with one another. She was very lucky to get this team. They will become legends in the making. Midoshi walked into Orochimaru's office. She folded her arms and waited for the snake to speak. "Midoshi, I'm glad that you could make it," Orochimaru said. "Get to the reason why I was called on again." She said, "My dear, I'm just giving you a chance to stretch your legs for a while," Orochimaru said. And exactly what are you talking about?" "In 3.5 months' time, I will be meeting with someone within the Land of Fire. It will be around this time that the Genin squads will be returning for Takigakure. I wish for you to attack the returning teams to give me enough time to meet with my contact," Orochimaru explained. "So, you want me to take out a bunch of Genin? What a waste of my time," Midoshi said. "Do this for me and I will allow you to enter the next Chunin exam. The one that will be held in Konoha," he added. Midoshi thought about this. She wanted to get into Konoha to locate that girl who was with Enko. She was intrigued by her skills in genjutsu. She wanted to convince her to teach her how to make those illusions into reality. Fine, I will do this other favor for you, but you better hold up your end of the bargain. Midoshi said. You have my word. Orochimaru said. Midoshi scoffed at that and walked out of the Snake Sannin office. Hiruzen entered the Hokage Tower. He had just gotten back from seeing those teams that were heading to Takigakure for the Chunin exams. He kept a positive outcome to how well they may do. As he walked toward his office, he heard a loud noise coming from that direction. He turned the corner and got a small smirk on his face. His secretary was holding that demon cat, Tora, in her arms. She kept it out of the reach of Team Enko, who was being restrained by several Chunin and ANBU. He also saw that the team was badly scratched. That was the price of retrieving the daimyo wife's cat. He coughed loudly to get everyone's attention. They stopped their actions to see that their leader was in the area. That lasted only a couple of seconds when Team Enko attempted to get the cat again. The Chunin and ANBU refocused their attention to stopping them while the secretary kept Tora away. Hiruzen just sighed. Team Enko stood in front of Hiruzen, badly bruised and angry. Hiruzen just looked at them with amusement. Okay, I believe it would be safer if your team never gets the Capture Tora mission ever again. Hiruzen said. That would be the most wise, Hokage-sama. Enko said. Yeah, we're killing it next time. Jacken added. I'm with you. Naruto commented. I don't give a damn if the samurai come after me. Yakumo finished. Hiruzen just smiled at the angry team. Team Enko was one of the best teams among the genin teams. They were a well-oiled machine that got the job done. As he looked over his records, Enko's team did more D and C rank missions than any squad. He was happy that his gamble paid off so well. It was very liberating to rub it in the elders' faces. As he continued to look on, he noticed something. There was supposed to be a report from one of his out-in-the-field shinobi. The report was due 3 weeks ago. He frowned and wondered what the hell was taking him so long to report to him. He looked at Team Enko and shrugged. While it might be an impossible task, he felt confident that this team might complete the mission he was planning. Okay, I have a personal favor to ask of you. Hiruzen began. What is Hokage-sama? Enko asked. I need you to track and retrieve one of my shinobi. He was to check in 3 weeks ago with a status report. He explained. Do you believe that he's been captured? Asked Naruto. Not this one, he is actually a student of mine. His name is Jiraiya. Lord Jiraiya is missing, exclaimed Enko. It's more like he's goofing off again. Trust me, Jiraiya is an excellent spy but has some very bad and annoying habits. One of these habits must be the reason that he has not reported in. Track him down and bring him back to Konoha. Use whatever means you have to. He said. Yes sir, they all said and left to get prepared. Hiruzen prayed for their success. The team entered Otafuku-gai, homely woman town. The town was known for its hotels and gentlemen clubs. It was also the last place that Jiraiya was seen. Why would Lord Jiraiya come to a place like this? Yakumo asked. Got me, but this is where he was last reported. Alright, we'll split up and search the area. Enko ordered. The team nodded and made their way to different corners of the city. It would be several hours of searching, but they yielded no results. The team reunited to get something to eat. As they ate, they vented their frustrations. How can it be this hard to find one guy? Jacken whined. He is one of Konoha's best spies. He wouldn't be much of one if we could find him so easily. Yakumo commented. True, but you would think that someone must have seen him at some point. Naruto said. Complaining isn't going to get us anywhere. Let's just finish up and get ready to resume the search. The team groaned in displeasure and continued to eat. They finished their meals and went to pay for it. When the waiter came, Enko decided to ask him the same question she's asked everyone. Hey, I was wondering if you've seen a man around here. What does he look like? The waiter asked. Average height, average build, long white spiky hair, 2 red streaks coming down his face. Does that ring any bells? She asked. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He should still be at the Fun Street Kenrakugai, Pleasure Quarter. The waiter told them. The team was ecstatic at the news and asked for directions to the place. Enko wanted to stop them but reconsidered it. After all, it would be funny to see their reactions when they realized what this place was. Enko was not disappointed as they entered the Fun Street Kenrakugai. All 3 of her charges were blushing like mad. She only wished she had a camera with her to remember this moment. It only got funnier when the half-naked girls were all over Naruto. They cooed at him and touched his whisker marks, which made him get redder. Jacken got a few admirers, as did Yakumo. She wasn't mistaken as a boy, the world was just like that. Having enough fun at their expense, Enko asked where she could find Jiraiya. All of them giggled and led them to where Jiraiya was. They were led into a large room where Jiraiya was surrounded by many women of different sizes. The man had a bottle of sake in his hand and had his arm around the waist of one of the women. The team could not believe that this was the student of the Sandame. The woman who led them made her way toward him. Jiraiya-sama, you have some guests. She said. Jiraiya looked over to them. His eyes quickly focused on Enko. Well, a new girl and she's a kunoichi geisha. He said in a drunken haze. Enko raised an amused eyebrow. Great, this guy's a pervert. Naruto muttered. Hey, I'm not a pervert, you brat. I'm a super pervert. Jiraiya admitted, causing the girls to giggle. The team looked on, shocked that he admitted it. Enko just smirked at the white-haired pervert. Sorry, old man, but you can handle this. Enko said. You never know that, my dear. I'll do things that you've never experienced before. Jiraiya said seductively. Really, I might just take you up on that. Enko flirted. The genin were not amused. Hey, we didn't come here so you could get your rocks off. Jacken shouted. He then turned back to Jiraiya. Look, pervert, you're 3 weeks late with your report to the Hokage and we're here to escort you back to Konoha. Jacken suddenly realized that he was talking to air. Noticing his team's gaze, he found Jiraiya flirting with Enko again. So, you want to ditch these brats and take me up on that offer? He asked suggestively. As fun as it may be to watch you die happily, I'm afraid my genin is right. We're here to escort you back to Konoha. Maybe if you come quietly, I just may take you up on that offer. Enko said with a grin. Sorry darling, but I can't return just yet. Just tell the old man that I'll see him in 5 days. Jiraiya said. He suddenly felt something in his groin area. He looked down to see a kunai. Sorry Lord Jiraiya, but this isn't up for debate. You're coming with us. Enko stated. Jiraiya just smirked before quickly grabbing her wrist. He saw that her team was making a move to stop him and he flipped Enko toward them. Enko twisted in a way that allowed her team to avoid her. Naruto pulled out his staff and started to attack. Jiraiya noticed that the boy was not attempting to hurt him, just disabled. He also recognized this style of bojutsu. This is definitely Sensei's style. He broke the boy's pattern and grabbed him by the GI shirt. He threw to his left into the other boy before disarming and restraining the girl. Enko glared at him and made a move to attack, but Jiraiya made a negative signal to her. That wouldn't be wise. Look, just tell the old man that I'll see him in 5 days. My business will be over by then. Sorry, but that's not going to happen. My team has a high mission rate and I won't have it wrecked because you want to chase some tail. Enko said. You're being stubborn. Jiraiya sighed. And you don't know who you have captured. Enko said with a smirk. Confused, he looked at the girl. Recognizing who it was, he was too late as Jiraiya found himself swallowed up by ghostly apparitions. Yakumo appeared next to Anko. "Nice work, Yakumo," Anko congratulated. She then turned to the two males of her team. "Alright, you two, stop feeling up the girls and come on. You make it sound like we aren't trying." Jacken growled and finally escaped the clutches of the three women that had him. He pulled Naruto out of one woman's impressive cleavage and joined up with Anko and Yakumo. The ghost continued to maul Jiraiya, forcing him out of the place. When the team arrived and Yakumo cancelled her genjutsu, Jiraiya was gone. Son of a bitch, he couldn't have gotten far. "Naruto!" Anko shouted. "Got it, Tajukage Bunshin no Jutsu. Mass shadow clone technique," Naruto said. The whole town was blanketed by thousands of shadow clones. They took off in different directions in search of the perverted man. Team Anko joined in the search as well. Unknown to them, a woman from the Fun Street Kanrakugai looked at the three teens. She paid special attention to Jacken's retreating back. If someone was looking at her, they would see the look of shock as well as a single tear run down her cheek. It would be at sunset when the team realized that Jiraiya had escaped. They were tired, hungry and pissed. Jacken slammed his fist on a random wall. "He got away," he stated. "I don't know about you, but this will not stand. I will not allow our record to suffer because of this bastard. We are going to hunt this man down and drag his old ass before the Hokage," Anko said. "But where could he have gone? We search everywhere in this town. He didn't pass any of my clones that we stationed at the exits," Naruto said. "He couldn't have gotten far out of the city limits. We could probably pick up his trail if we search," Yakumo suggested. "Good plan, let's get to it. We're not sleeping until we find a sign of where that bastard went." Anko turned around to head toward the exit when a flyer hit her in the face. Already annoyed, Anko ripped the flyer off and was about to tear it into pieces when she noticed something. She suddenly got a wicked grin on her face which her team saw. "What is sensei?" Naruto asked. "I don't think we need to find a trail. I have a good idea where he's going," Anko said and handed her team the flyer. They looked at it and got the same grin on their faces. They decided to rest for the night and continue out as soon as the sun rises. They had a troublesome pervert to hunt down. Kuni, land of hot water, was a country that was famous for its hot springs. Their most favorite spring was a naturally heated resort that was built on the side of a dormant volcano. Around this time, the resort held a special contest, a bikini contest. Girls from all places came to this event and they were cheered on by many. There were always 3 judges who would later pick a winner. The prize was always different. This year's prize was 5,000 Ryu and a part in the next Ika Ika novel whose author was a judge this year. Team Anko was within the crowd but kept a low profile so that their target would not see them. Yakumo looked at her sensei. "Are you sure that we should be doing this to Naruto? Judging by what we know of this man, he could be in some serious trouble." She said, "Don't worry about it. Naruto will lead him to the hotel room where we will surprise him. Trust me, we'll have him bound and gagged before he even tries anything," Anko said in reassurance. "Why are we letting the pipsqueak handle this? Shouldn't you have done it? You don't mind flaunting it," Jacken said. "Hey, I don't flaunt it. Besides, since he's gotten a good look at me, he'll know that it was a trap. Anyway, this will be a lesson in espionage that you guys have to learn anyway," Anko explained. They watched as the announcer led the girl off the stage. "Alright everybody, get ready for a special treat. A late entry has entered the competition and guess what? They're twins," the announcer said, getting a loud cheer from the crowd. "Let's hear it for our final contestants, Naruto and Ryoko." 2 girls, no more than 16, walked onto the stage. They were both blonde and had their hair in pigtails. The two also had 3 whisker marks on each cheek which made the men go wild. They showed off their bodies which were bouncing around for all to see. Both turned to the judges and focused on Jiraiya. They winked at him and gave him a little show. When he tried to reach for them, one sister pulled the other away and gave him the "no touchy" sign with her finger. They continued to wow the crowd, and when their time was up, they left the stage. Team Anko was impressed. "Wow, he did better than I thought," Anko said in shock. "I still hate that jutsu, but it does have some uses. I'll admit that I'm impressed as well." Yakumo then turned to a blushing Jacken. "What's the matter with you?" she asked in concern. "Nothing. Just leave me alone for a while," he exclaimed. "Ah, did you get a boner from watching your teammate?" Anko teased. Jacken let out a string of curses as both females laughed at him. After the contest, Jiraiya was taking pictures with the winner of the contest. When it was over, he was about to ask her something when he felt a pair of soft tissue on both arms. He grinned as he noticed the twins. They were both still in their bikinis. They also had some pouts on their face. "Jiraiya-sama, how could you?" Naruto asked with a pout. "After the show we put on for you?" Ryoko added. "I am sorry ladies, but you both were a close second," Jiraiya said. No fair," Naruto whined. "We want to model for you. Please let us model for you," Ryoko asked cutely. Model," Naruto added. "Well, I don't see why not. Do you have a place in mind?" he asked. "Let's go upstairs to our room. We'll model for you," Ryoko said. "Even in the nude?" Naruto added. Jiraiya was sold and rushed both girls to their room. They all entered and both girls placed Jiraiya in a chair. "Are you ready for Jiraiya-sama?" "Oh yeah," he said eagerly. "Close your eyes," Ryoko said. The pervert did just that. He heard the faint sounds of clothes being removed and was giddy with excitement. "Okay, you can open them now." He did just that and found himself wrapped up by a huge boa constrictor. The snake hissed at him. He was confused and afraid when the twins suddenly turned into brats. One brat disappeared in a puff of smoke while the other one had this smug little smirk on his face. "What the hell?" Jiraiya exclaimed. "Sorry big boy, there will be no fun tonight," a familiar voice said. Jiraiya saw that it was Anko and her team. "Okay my pet, swallow him up," she ordered the boa to do it. Jiraiya squealed as the snake gobbled him up. When he was completely swallowed, Anko sent the snake back home. "We have about 2 days before the juices of the snake dissolve him, so we'll be moving at a ninja speed." "Hi sensei," they all said. As they left the hotel, Naruto was starting to get disturbed at the fact that Jacken kept looking at him and blushing. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he asked. "Nothing damn it, just leave me alone," Jacken exclaimed and walked past his team in order to get away from them. Naruto was greatly confused at his attitude and as to why his sensei and best friend were on the ground holding their sides. Team Anko arrived within 2 days. They went straight to the Hokage to give their report. Hiruzen looked at them with curiosity. "Were you able to find Jiraiya?" he asked. "Yes Hokage-sama, we found him at his last location and engaged him. He managed to escape but we tracked him down in Kuni. Land of hot water," Anko reported. "Did you capture him?" he asked. "That we did," Anko said and summoned a boa. "Okay girl, spit out the pervert." The boa did as she was ordered and spat on a slimy Jiraiya. He was in the fetal position and was shivering. Hiruzen looked at him then at Anko. "I know that I gave you a bit of leeway, but did it really have to go that far Anko?" he asked. "I couldn't think of any other way to keep him secure sir," Anko said. "This was the only way to GG. Old man," Naruto added. It was totally necessary. Jacken interjected. Unavoidable, sir, Yakumo said in her piece. Hiruzen just smirked at the team. If it was necessary then, thank you for your quick work on finding him. Consider yourself on leave for a while, he said. The team cheered and left the office in smiles. Hiruzen just smirked and looked at his most troublesome student. After getting cleaned up, Jiraiya was sitting across from his smiling sensei. That wasn't funny, sensei. I could have been killed by that snake, Jiraiya said with a pout. Maybe next time, you will report to me on time. Consider it, should it happen again, Hiruzen said. Jiraiya just grumbled a bit. So, what do you have to report? Nothing much, everything is as it should be. I am keeping tabs on a certain group of men, he said. What group is this? I have no idea. They are pretty secretive and keep to the shadows. I have no idea what they are planning, but I do know two things. This group consists of S-rank criminals and Orochimaru was once a part of this group, Jiraiya said. That is troubling. Find out more about this group, Jiraiya, and fast. What about my request? I checked my usual channels, but there is no shinobi by the name of Midoshi. If she is working for Orochimaru, he's keeping it very well hidden. From what you assumed, he would want to keep her a well-kept secret if she is able to remove people from the contract. Hiruzen was in deep thought. The fact that Anko could still summon snakes meant that Midoshi found her worthy, but why? Keep digging, something about this child is not sitting well with me, Hiruzen said. Will do, sensei, Jiraiya said. Then he remembered something that he had been meaning to ask. Say, when did you take on another student? That blonde kid, he was using a bow kata that I've only seen you use. Ah, that was young Naruto. I had to take him under my care after an incident when he was 5. Hiruzen said. The name sounded familiar to Jiraiya. Wait a minute, you don't mean Uzumaki Naruto? He asked. Yes, we are talking about the same child. He graduated from the academy 6.5 months ago. During which, I trained him so that he would not be cheated and to also help him control his emotions. It was something that had to be done seeing that he knows of the Kyuubi, Hiruzen said. Wait a minute, hold the phone, you told him. How could you do that? Jiraiya shouted. As I said, I had no choice. He was cornered by some ignorant people and under extreme conditions he used the chakra of the Kyuubi, killing everyone in that alley. I had to make sure that he was trained. Seeing that his godfather was out and his aunt was drinking away her savings, the responsibility fell to me, he said. Look, you know how important I am in the field, Jiraiya said. Do not make excuses, Jiraiya. I understand more than anyone the importance that your information brings, but he was still your responsibility. You should have made sure that he was taken care of. I can do so much, Hiruzen stated. Jiraiya fell silent at his sensei's tone. Hiruzen took a puff of his tobacco and blew out smoke. You need not worry yourself about Jiraiya. He has found friends that he wishes to protect. Even after all this village has done, he still wishes to take my hat from me, Hiruzen assured him happily. Jiraiya nodded, but he still felt a bit bad. He really didn't take his duties as godfather seriously. Maybe it was time to start. Naruto was enjoying his day off. He didn't have too many plans for today. He figured he could always prank someone or annoy Anko-sensei for a new technique, although made sure that his plans did not include the Hyugas. They were still sore about that last prank. As he continued to think, he felt someone to his left. He turned and saw Jiraiya. Ero Sennin, pervy sage, what are you doing here? He asked. Jiraiya balked at the name he gave him. What the hell, what's with the name? Jiraiya asked. You're going to stand there and ask about why you earned that name? Really? Naruto asked in a sarcastic tone. Jiraiya settled on giving the smug punk a dirty look. For your information, brat, I'm a special type of pervert that the women flock to, he said. I see that. I mean, they're practically surrounding the stand, he mocked. Whatever, brat. What are you doing today? Jiraiya asked. I was just deciding that. I figured that I would just go and train, and keep my skills sharp, Naruto said. Good, let's get started on that, Jiraiya said. He placed some money on the counter and grabbed Naruto's shoulder. They were gone via Shunshin, body flicker. They appeared in one of Konoha's training grounds. Naruto was trying to get his footing while Jiraiya smirked at him. Naruto glared at the man. You could have warned me that you were about to do that, he shouted. Shh, kid, you don't want to disturb our guests, Jiraiya said. What guests? Naruto asked. He watched as Jiraiya parted the tall grass and started to giggle. Curious, he looked and wasn't too surprised. He saw 3 women splashing water on each other. He gave Jiraiya a look. Why did you bring me here? He asked, annoyed. What? Oh yeah, I'm here to show you a technique, Jiraiya said. A technique? Why would you give me a technique after what we did to you? He asked. Well, you guys impressed me. It's not every day I get tricked like that, so what do you say? Naruto thought about it before looking at the man. I'll agree to it if you teach a technique to my teammates. If this will make me strong, then I want them to be strong too, Naruto told him. I don't see why not, Jiraiya said with a smirk. Naruto watched as he did some hand seals and summoned a scroll. I heard from Sarutobi-sensei that you know the Kuchiyos no Jutsu, summoning technique, or rather, that Lord Enma is allowing you to summon one of his kin. I talked it over with him and he was okay with you keeping the tattoo while you get to be the proud member of the Toad Summons. Toads, didn't the Yondaime Hokage, 4th Fire Shadow, use toads? Naruto said with excitement. Yeah, and knowing my student, he would want you to sign the contract, Jiraiya said. Naruto was in awe. This pervert was actually the sensei of the 4th and he was going to be able to summon toads like him. Where do I sign up? Naruto said with confidence. Jiraiya smirked and unrolled the scroll. Sign your name in blood and leave your prints, Jiraiya ordered. Naruto looked at the names that had used this scroll. He saw Jiraiya's name and Minato's name. Naruto bit into his thumb and began to sign his name. When he was done, he placed blood on each of his fingers and pressed it under his name. With that done, Jiraiya rolled up the scroll. Okay then, the seals are the same as how you were taught by Sarutobi-sensei. Let's see what you can do. Naruto nodded and swiped some blood across his palm. He did the seals and slammed his hand on the ground. Kuchiyos no Jutsu, Naruto shouted. There was a puff of smoke that covered his hand. When it cleared, Naruto and Jiraiya were surprised. Yo, my name is Gamakichi. You got any snacks? He asked. Naruto suddenly began to jump up and down in happiness while Jiraiya kept his shocked face. I knew he was quite skilled, but I didn't expect him to summon a toad on the first try. Jiraiya watched as Naruto kept jumping around. That brought a smile to his face. He may be a prodigy like you, Minato. I know that I was there before, but I promise to be there in the future. Your boy is an extraordinary person. After 3 days, Jiraiya had to go back out. In those 3 days, he had trained Naruto in summoning. He was impressed and proud that his godson was doing so well. Within 3 days, he had managed to summon both sons of Gamabunta and 2 others that Jiraiya uses for messages. He had Naruto use the Kyuubi's chakra while he taught him and learned that he could summon battle toads. He was glad for that as it would turn the tide for him in battle. Well kid, I need to get back to my research. I expect you to keep working on the technique. I'll be checking on you to see how far you've gotten with the technique," Jiraiya said. He then pulled out 2 scrolls. "These are for your teammates. I watched them while they trained and these shall do them good. Thanks a lot Ero-Sennin, for the training and the techniques," Naruto said. "You're never going to stop calling me that, are you?" Jiraiya asked with a dirty look. "Nope, never going to happen. Just like his mother, anyway, I'll see you when I get a chance," Jiraiya said and left. Naruto just looked at the scrolls before leaving to see his team. Jiraiya watched him go and smiled. "I wish you luck, my godson. I know that you'll make your parents proud." A week passed when Team Anko was called. The team sported a new look since their last mission. Jacken was wearing a dark blue ninja uniform with braces on his shins and forearms. The uniform had a hood on it. He also had a bigger pouch that held his kusarigama. Yakumo wore a battle navy blue kimono with short sleeves. She was also wearing a mesh shirt under it. She had a scroll on her back and 2 pouches at her sides. Naruto was wearing dark orange track pants, a mesh shirt and a blue jersey covered by an orange jacket. He had bracers that went up to the back of his hand. Anko was the most surprising of them all. Gone was the mesh suit and it was replaced with a black bodysuit. She wore a red checkered skirt, shin guards, a black sweater, fingerless gloves and a tan leather jacket with fur on it. Her pouch was strapped to her back. Hiruzen looked at them and waited for something. They didn't have to wait long as Team Guy entered the office. The team didn't look different but Naruto and Yakumo were wide-eyed when they saw Lee. Their friend of 5 years ran up and gave them a very strong hug. "Naruto-kun, Yakumo-chan, my good friends, how have you been since our youthful graduation?" Lee asked them. Naruto and Yakumo were speechless while Anko looked side and Jacken kept himself from laughing. That's when their sensei entered the office and they saw the cause of Lee's transformation. The man had the same haircut, green bodysuit and big eyebrows as Lee. Jacken was holding himself up because he was laughing so hard. Anko just shook her head while Naruto and Yakumo were still speechless. Neji managed to get Lee to calm down and release the 2. After getting reacquainted with one another, Hiruzen called for order. The teams stood at attention and awaited their orders. "Team Anko, Team Guy, this will be a joint mission that will take about 2 weeks to complete. It is a high-ranking C-class mission that has no room for error," Hiruzen said. "What is our mission, sir?" Anko asked. "An important scroll from Kiba no Kuni, land of Fang, is being transported to the border. Once at our border, it will be your mission to see the scroll to the capital," he said. "Should we expect hostile Hokage-sama?" Neji asked. "Yes, this document can improve relations with our 2 lands. Many would attempt to stop you from completing your task. Be cautious of your surroundings." "Yes, sir," they said and filed out of his office to begin their mission. "We need to stop that scroll from getting to the fire daimyo. It can ruin our business," a male voice shouted. "Agreed, which is why I have made arrangements." "Come in," another ordered man. The door opened and a tall man entered. He had red hair and had a cannon strapped to his back. "May I introduce you to Bando? He will solve this problem for us." "I'll solve your problems, for the right price, that is," he said. It took both teams 2 days to reach Kiba no Kuni, land of Fang. They had a meeting with one of the daimyo's men and went over the mission. The man told them that the cartels in the land would not sit by and allow them to get to the fire capital. They decided to rest and wait until tomorrow before leaving. The daimyo's man placed them in a secure hotel under false names. After getting settled in, the jonins left to do something. Naruto and Yakumo found this to be the best time to talk to Lee. Ever since they reunited, they had a swarm of questions to ask their friend. They dragged the spandex-wearing teen away from the room so that they can get some privacy. Once alone, the two forced Lee to sit and stared at him. Lee was very confused by how they were acting. Okay Lee, what's up with you? What's with the get-up? What's up with hairdo? What's up with the eyebrows? What's up? Naruto was cut off by Yakumo. What Naruto is trying to say is that we are surprised by your changes. Did your sensei force this onto you? Yakumo asked. Are you under a genjutsu? Yakumo, check for genjutsu. Naruto ordered. Yakumo was about to do just that when Lee held his hands up. You may be at ease, my friends. I am not under any genjutsu. Guy-sensei has just shown me my path in life. He has shown me the path of youthfulness and has made my path ever so clear. Lee explained with excitement. Okay, Naruto drawled. So, this change is of your own doing? Yes, to be a splendid ninja without the use of genjutsu and ninjutsu, that is my goal. That is my ninja way. Lee said with fire in his eyes. Naruto and Yakumo were a little scared. After he calmed down, Yakumo spoke. If this is your wish, Lee, then we will support you. I would consider a change of clothes though. She said, why, could it be that you two want to further your powers of youth with Guy-sensei, suit of youth? Lee asked excitedly. No, 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 they both said and quickly shook their heads. While this may have been cool for Lee, they would never hear the end of it from Jacken and especially Anko. In the room, the remaining of the two teams were sitting around. Tenten was checking her weapons, Niji was busy meditating and Jacken was lying on his bed. He looked over to Tenten and saw the arsenal of weapons. Wow, that's a lot of steel buns. What are you compensating for? Jacken jokes. Tenten ignored him, but you could hear her teeth grinding a little. Jacken just smirked as she ignored him. Jacken knew that she hated the nickname he gave her back in the academy. He only did it to piss her off. He didn't really have a reason other than to annoy his rival in throwing weapons. He decided to see how far he could take it. That's kind of cold, buns. We're teammates for the time being, the least you can do is answer my question. He said with a smirk. Tenten saw his smirk and glared at the older teen. God, she wanted to ram a kunai where the sun doesn't shine. She took a calming breath and went back to her weapons. Jacken had to admit that he was impressed that she didn't attack him yet. Still, he had one more ace up his sleeve. Just as well, I'm going to have to cover for both of our teams. The way you throw your weapons around, I still think the instructors cheated for you. Jacken said. What was that? What the hell did you just say? Tenten snarled. You heard me, buns, dot. He said. Tenten looked ready to strangle him. She reached for a kunai but quickly calmed herself. Chanting the mantra, only 3 more days, Tenten faced him with a calm expression. You know what, I'm not going to fall for it. You can say whatever you want, but the fact is that you're just a bitter little boy. She said, excuse me? Tenten got in his face before talking again. All you do is bitch and moan about how you should be number 1, but that belongs to me. So just deal with it, because no matter what, you'll be just the 4th ranked. So kiss my buns and grow a pair. She turned her nose up from him and went back to what she was doing. Jacken looked embarrassed and was red with anger. That would be Tenten, 1, Jacken, 0. Niji said with mirth. Jacken just huffed and found the ceiling interesting. The rest of the team entered the room and looked upon everyone. Anko noticed that Jacken was pissed. Seeing the smile on Tenten's face, Anko got a vicious smirk on her face. Ah, did my oldest genin just get emasculated? Anko asked. Shut it. Jacken shouted. Tenten. Niji and Anko began to laugh while the others looked confused. So who are we dealing with? Bando asked. Just 2 genin teams and only 2 of them are famous. The henchman said. What does that mean? he asked. They have a Hyuga teen and Mato guy, Konoha no Ketakaki Aoi Moju, Konoha sublime green beast of prey. The henchman answered. The Hyuga might be a problem. That Byakugan will see us coming a mile off. Alright then, we'll have to change our plans. Even with Mato guy, there will be no trouble in taking out these genin. Bando said with confidence. The teams were a day out from the fire capital. Niji was in the lead because of his Byakugan. So far it was smooth sailing, but the teams kept themselves alert just in case. They continued their trek and entered a heavily wooded area. As they walked, Yakumo got a very bad feeling. Being a part of the Kurama clan and trained heavily by her uncle, she had developed an unreal sense when it came to genjutsu. She could feel the vibes of one right now. Enko-sensei, something is wrong? Yakumo said, alerting everyone. Naruto's staff and Jakin Kusarigama were instantly out. Team Guy was also on alert. What's up, Yakumo? Enko said as she looked around the trees. I believe that we have walked into an ambush. I can feel the effects of a genjutsu. She explained. Impossible, my Byakugan can see through genjutsu. Niji said. That's true, but there are ways to beat a dojutsu, technique. For example, if you have several people casting layer upon layer of genjutsu at the same time, it can negate a dojutsu. That is what I'm feeling at the moment. Yakumo said. Naruto, use that technique we practiced. Everyone, kill your chakra. Enko ordered. Naruto slammed his palms together and killed all his chakra. He built it up and crossed his arms. With a shout, he unleashed a huge wave of chakra that traveled a long distance. The team felt a tingly sensation for a few seconds. When it passed, Niji activated his Byakugan again. They have us surrounded, he shouted. Knowing that they had been found out, the enemy attacked. It was a brutal battle. Despite their huge numbers, the teams were having an easy time with them. Naruto was causing mass head trauma to several of them. Jakin was cutting them down with amazing speed and efficiency. Yakumo used small genjutsu to confuse her opponents and take them out from behind. Niji's Jukin was devastating to many who attacked him. Lee was crushing his opponents with no problem. Tenten used her weapons with the skill of a war veteran. The enemy knew that they were beaten as they saw many of their comrades on the ground. Those left beat a hasty retreat. The genin was breathing hard and was trying to calm themselves down. The jonin couldn't be any more proud of them as they are now. Enko walked up to one of the attackers, one that was taken out by Niji. He'll do it, she said. Jakin restrained the man. Guy hoisted the man on his shoulder and they were gone in a flash. Bando threw one of the injured henchmen into the wall hard. He died from the impact. He glared at all of them. He grabbed another henchman and held him up. What the hell happened? I thought that the ambush was foolproof, he shouted. It was. I just don't understand it. The girl in the battle kimono was able to tell that they walked into an ambush and the spiky blonde-haired brat was able to disrupt our chakra with his own. The henchman gasped out. Useless. Bando shouted and killed him with a squeeze of his hand. He looked at the rest of his men. Gather your weapons. I'll be coming along just to make sure that you don't screw up. Enko circled the man who was currently tied to a tree. She had her jacket off and held a kunai in her hand. She had this devious smile on her face. The man looked a little scared and that made her smile some more. So, we can do this one of two ways. You can be a spoilsport and tell me what I want to know, or you can be a tough guy and make this fun for me. Enko said. You don't have the balls to do anything. You might as well kill me now because I'm not saying jack, the man exclaimed. Oh goody, I was hoping that you would say that. Trust me, tough guy, you will tell me what I want to know. Enko said with a wicked smile before advancing on the man. Tenten jumped again when she heard the cries of something getting gutted. What surprised her the most was the fact that Enko's team didn't look bothered by it. If anything, they looked very annoyed. Couldn't she have done that farther into the forest? Jacken muttered. You know how Sensei is. She's trying to get one of us to take an interest in her work. I'm not falling for it. Naruto said. It's all Yakumo's fault that happened. Jacken muttered. Hey, don't blame this on me. That wasn't my fault. Yakumo shouted. You used your Kurama ghost powers on that one guy. I didn't need to know that he was a bedwetter until he was 15 or that he liked braiding his mother's hair. He countered. For the last time, stop calling my Kekii Genkai that. Yakumo shouted. What the hell is wrong with you guys? Tenten shouted, stopping the argument. How can you just sit there and not be bothered by this? Well, Buns, Jacken said in a sage-like voice. He quickly dodged the kunai she threw at him. The simple fact is that we are better ninjas than you. Tenten looked ready to rush him, but she was held by Guy. Jacken jotted that down as a win for him. Naruto sighed while Yakumo bopped him in the head. Enko-chan is actually second in command of the Interrogation and Intelligence Department. She is very youthful when it comes to her skills. Guy explained. Is that what we're saying about her psychotic issues? Jacken asked mockingly. Enko suddenly appeared and made her way to her pack. She pulled out some wet naps and wiped her hands of some blood. That didn't take you long. Naruto commented. Pust, that guy was a pussy. I only stabbed him with 5 kunais in his joints and he sang like canary. Enko said. Lee, Niji and Tenten all looked at her with a new sense of fear. Enko then pulled out a bingo book from her pack. She started to flip through it. Hey Guy, does the name Bando register with you? The arms dealer, he is on many wanted lists, Hai no Kuni, Land of Fire, included. He is unyouthful and his weapons have killed many innocents. Guy said. Well, that's who is after us. Apparently this scroll will give the fire daimyo a reason to allow his samurai into Kiba no Kuni. If that happens, the cartels will be put out of business. The big boss paid a pretty good amount to stop us from ever reaching the fire capital. Enko said. She found a picture of the man and laid it down for all to see. Damn, that is one tall son of a bitch. Jacken spoke. So what's going to be the plan? Asked Tenten. The old man stressed that he should get to the daimyo with haste, so directly confronting him is out of the question. Naruto inputted. Naruto is right, but if the money is as good as Enko-sensei said, this bando will not stop until we are dead. My guess would be he will personally come himself. Niji added. What if we set an ambush of our own? Yakumo asked. Did you hear about Naruto? Asked Enko. No, what if we ambush them here? She asked again. Enko looked confused and motioned her to continue. Yakumo explained her plan, which both Enko and Guy could not help but be impressed by. That's not a bad plan. It would slow them down and give us a head start. Are there any objections? Enko asked everyone. There was none. All right then, let's get started. It was now dawn and at the camp everyone was getting ready to move. They decided to get moving as soon as the sun rose. The sound of a cannon alerted them. A huge blast erupted in the camp, killing both Guy and Enko. The sky was filled with shadows as Bando's men attacked at once. This time, they were overpowered and taken out. They began to search for the scroll while they hurt the genin. Bando entered the camp with a smile. He found it funny how the blonde glared at him with fury. Have you found the scroll yet? Bando asked. No yet, but it should be here. One man said. By Kami, ask the brats, he shouted. He walked up to the blonde and picked him up by the throat. All right kid, where's the scroll? Tell me now and I'll end you quickly. Naruto made some choking sounds which Bando didn't hear. What was that? I said, boom. He gasped out. Confused, Bando noticed one of Jonan's features began to change. His eyes widened when he saw that it was one of his men. Get out of here, he shouted to his men. Confused and distracted, the explosive notes that were all around the area lit up. The explosion could have been seen from a 2-mile radius. The teams looked back to see a mushroom cloud of black smoke. Jacken looked at Tenten with a smirk. And you say that my sensei is crazy? He commented. Shut it. Tenten snarled. Save your lover's spat for later, let's begin part 2 of the plan. Enko said. Everyone nodded and took off in different directions. Bando roared in rage. He had survived their little trap and so did a few of his henchmen. Get off your asses and get ready to move, he ordered. The hell with that, I'm not going after them again. Shouted back one of the henchmen. We've lost so many men to these 2 teams. We're not sacrificing any more just for this big payday. Another one shouted. Some more men shouted in defiance as well. Bando growled and slammed his fist into the disobedient henchman. Listen well, you will do this or I will kill every one of you. Bando threatened. Come on guys, it's just one of him. Let's kill him. Those that were against Bando charged at him. Bando easily held them off and jumped away. While in the air, he attached both cannons to his arm. He landed and fired his cannons at the charging men. They were quickly shot down and killed instantly. Those who had survived looked on in fear of what would happen. Bando gave them all a menacing glare. Now that we understand each other, I want them found. Bando ordered. They quickly left to do what they were ordered. Bando looked at the area and snarled. While he normally didn't get angry, these teams were beginning to test his patience. These guys were going to die, that he promised. Anko and Guy were not moving at top speed. They moved at normal speed just to give the illusion to their pursuers. It would take them a while but they managed to cut them off and surround them. The 2 Jonin stood and faced the bandits. They pulled out their weapons and gave the 2 dirty looks. We've had enough of you and your brats. You will hand over that scroll now, one of the bandits shouted. You want the scroll? Enko asked in a cute voice. Sorry to say, you picked the wrong group. Yes, soon our youthful students would have handed the scroll to the samurai. Guy added. The bandits snarled at them. Kill them, the bandits shouted and they charged at the 2. Enko just had a sick smile on her face and raised both of her hands toward the charging bandits. Sanaijishu, hidden shadow snake hands, Enko called out. Several black mambas shot out at them. They bit into them, making them fall down. Enko then jumped over a sword strike and landed on the man's shoulders. She flipped back, bringing the attacker with her, and slamming his head into the ground. She was quickly on her feet and pulled out 2 kunai. She began to parry attacks and cut people up. Guy was running through them with amazing speed. He broke bones, busted jaws and caused severe internal damage to anyone stupid enough to attack him. With cries of Konoha Senpu, Leaf Whirlwind, and Konoha Kagansho, Leaf Rock Destroying Rise, the bandits were quickly dealt with. When it was over, the bandits laid on the ground either dead or unconscious. Well, that wasn't too tough of a workout. Enko said with a little disappointment. Now is not the time for Anko. We must check on our students. Guy said. Fine, let's get going. Enko said. The 2 took off, this time at faster speeds. Jacken, Tenten and Yakumo continued on their way to the capital. They were moving to accommodate Yakumo. Though her physical strength had improved under Anko, she was not one for stamina like her 2 teammates. As they continued to run, they heard the sounds of agony coming from behind them. By the amount of voices, they realized that a group of bandits were following them. Suddenly the noise stopped. You think that they got the message? Tenten asked. I'm pretty sure that they did. I mean, my traps would have taken out anyone. Jacken boasted. Oh please, an academy student could have seen that trap you set. Tenten said. It was meant to be seen as a decoy to activate the real trap. What about you? What's with you and chains? Jacken said. What does that mean? Tenten asked in a threatening tone. It means that it wasn't a good trap. Oh wow, chains shoot out from nowhere and block our path. We have to turn back and forget about pursuing them. Please. Jacken mocked. Why don't you go to hell, Jacken? Tenten snarled. Why don't you kiss my ass, Buns? Jacken spat. The two ended up glaring at each other, sparks coming out of their eyes. Yakumo just sighed and shook her head. She could just see these two later in years. She wouldn't be surprised if the two ended up sleeping with one another. She couldn't wait to get away from the arguing couple. Naruto, Neji and Lee moved in a single file. With Neji in the back they could see who was coming from behind. That's why they were prepared when Neji saw a blast of chakra coming their way. Everyone, hit the deck, he shouted. The boys dodged and got out of the way. The blast blew some branches off and placed dents in the tree trucks. Bando appeared and began to fire his cannons at all three of them. They kept moving as the blast of chakra kept blasting through the trees. Lee decided to act and moved toward Bando. The man was surprised at the young boy's speed. When he was close enough, Lee unleashed his attack. Konoha Senpu, he shouted. The kick connected with Bando's midsection. Lee saw that Bando didn't look hurt at all. Bando smirked and reared his cannons back. Naruto moved quickly and substituted Lee. The cannons connected with him but he exploded into smoke. Neji used that distraction to hit Bando in the chest with a Juken strike. Bando did not feel it and pointed at Neji. Neji was just as fast and was gone just as he fired. Bando heard the sound of metal flying through the air. He turned to face the attack. The kunai hit his armor with a clang. He saw the explosive notes but did not worry about it. They exploded but when the smoke cleared, Bando was still fine. Naruto saw that there was a yellow glow coming off him. Chakra armor, I've only heard about it. Naruto said. What do you know about Uzumaki? Neji asked. The armor protects the user from all types of attacks. Ninjutsu, genjutsu, ninja tools, they won't work against it. What confuses me is that the armor is mostly used in Yuki no Kuni. How did this guy get it, he wondered. Well, Gai-sensei did say that this guy was a weapons dealer. Lee said. Good point. All three looked at Bando as he searched for them. Naruto noticed something and smirked. Neji, do you have any new jutsu? 2 but I have not perfected them yet. Neji said. There's no time like the present. Lee, you see the wire? Lee nodded to his question. While Neji and I distract him, you need to cut that wire. After that, Neji will hit him with his new attack. Naruto said. The two nodded and separated. Naruto appeared first, throwing several kunai that had explosive notes attached to the kunai. He did a few seals and slammed his hands together. Futon, Repusho. Wind release, violent wind palm, Naruto shouted. The gust of wind increased the speed of the kunai. They hit the armor with a thunk and exploded. When the smoke cleared, Bando was still standing tall. Nice try, brat, take this. Bando roared and aimed his cannons. Out of the way, Uzumaki. Neji ordered. Naruto got out of the way. Bando didn't care and fired his cannons. Neji saw this and began to spin. Hakusho Kaiten. 8 trigrams palms heavenly spin, Neji called out. A dome of spinning chakra appeared and took Bando's attack. The blast was deflected and sent in a random direction. Bando growled in anger and was about to fire a stronger blast, but he was interrupted by Lee. Konoha Senpu. Lee shouted and connected with Bando's side. Bando was surprised when he felt the kick, knowing that his chakra armor should have lessened their attacks. Naruto helped Lee and attacked with his staff. He used powerful bow strikes to help Lee break the armor. Bando roared and tried to knock both boys back. They jumped back away from Bando to avoid it. He was about to fire, but he heard the sound of fizzling paper. He cursed and ripped the armor off him. He threw it away just as it exploded. "You damn brats!" Bando roared. He turned just to see Neji standing in front of him. He was in a stance and gave Bando a smirk. "You're within my range, Hakurokujion Sho." 8 trigrams 64 palms, Neji called out. He unleashed his attack and hit Bando with 64 strikes. Bando was pushed back a few inches. He growled and tried to punch Neji. Neji ducked and jumped away. Bando aimed his cannons, but he could not focus his chakra. He was enraged and kept trying to fire his cannons. Naruto and Lee appeared next to Neji, who was looking at the Bando with his Byakugan. Naruto turned to Neji. "Not to bring up old discussions, but aren't those main house techniques you just used?" Naruto asked. "You little punk, what the hell did you do to me?" Bando shouted. "I've hit 64 of your chakra points, sealing off your chakra. Those cannons of yours will not be of no use to you," Neji informed me. Naruto heard something coming from his pouch. It was his radio, which he answered. After a few seconds, Naruto had a smile on his face. He looked at Bando, who didn't like his grin. "What the hell is so funny? The game is over, creeping. Your men have been defeated and the scroll is now in the hands of one of the daimyo's retainers. As we speak, Gai-sensei and a dozen samurai are on their way here. Give up, you've lost," Naruto informed him. Bando was red in the face. These little bastards have been playing him from the beginning. He pulled out a smoke bomb and threw it on the ground. The genin prepared for whatever. When the smoke cleared, Bando was gone. "Neji," Lee asked. "He's moving due east, he will be out of my range pretty soon," Neji said. "Then we should pursue him," Lee said. "No, we don't know if this guy left any surprises if pursued. We should meet up with Gai-sensei and the samurai and let them know what happened," Naruto said. Neji agreed with him and Lee did as well. They left to meet with their sensei. The teams were making their way back home. After being congratulated and spending the night, the teams made their way home. As they walked, they began to chat among each other, making sure to keep both Jack and Tenten separate. As the afternoon rolled around, Neji saw something with his Byakugan. The teams stopped when he did. "What is Neji?" Guy asked. "There is a group of shinobi that are a few feet away," Neji said. He looked closer and saw that they were not enemies. They are carrying the Konoha banner. Even the Hokage is with them. That clicked in the minds of the Jonin. They must be returning from Takigakure. That must mean that the Chunin exams are over. Enko said out loud. "Chunin exams?" asked the genin. "I was considering entering U3, but I decided that you weren't ready for the exams yet," Enko said. "Wow, you actually thought of someone else besides yourself?" Jacken asked sarcastically. He was rewarded with a foot in the face by Enko. "You'd think he'd learn by now," Yakumo said. "It's Jacken, enough said," Naruto commented. Hiruzen was enjoying his walk with his men when his ANBU escort became alert. He was curious to know who would do something so stupid when he heard a familiar voice. "Hey old man!" Naruto shouted. Hiruzen sighed and gave a positive nod to his guards. From out of the bushes, Team Anko and Team Guy appeared. Anko and Naruto in a headlock that he was trying to free himself of. Sorry about that, Hokage-sama, he forgets himself sometimes. Anko said. It's quite alright. It's good to have someone who isn't so formal. Your mission was a success, I assume. Yes, Lord Hokage, we completed. Inside voice guy, Hiruzen said. Yes, we completed our mission with earnestness and youthfulness. Guy explained. Right then, you two can give your reports while we walk. Hiruzen said, and the entourage continued on their way to Konoha. The group made it a good distance and would arrive in Konoha by mid-afternoon. They decided to stop for the night and continue in the morning. The teams that went to the exams were making their tents and preparing to go to sleep. The Jonin and Chunin were giving out shifts for watch and designing defensive positions. With everything discussed and figured out, everyone sat and had dinner. After having dinner with his team, Naruto decided to get to sleep. As he was making his way to his tent, he caught sight of something. It was moving pretty slow and carefully. He was intrigued by what that was and decided to follow it. He kept back a good distance and blended in with his surroundings. With a sensei like Anko, who was pretty skilled at stealth, his stealth skills increased. The tale lasted a while until it led him to a clearing. Naruto stuck to the forest as he observed what was going on. He saw two figures with hoods covering their heads. He realized that he was following a Chunin. He did not recognize him but was wondering what he was doing so far away from the camp. He tried to move closer but knew that it would alert them to where he was. He decided to find Anko and report what he saw. He moved away from the scene and made his way back. The shorter of the two hooded people looked at the tree line. She narrowed her eyes as she searched for something. The taller of the two looked down at her. What is Midoshi? He asked. Your spy was careless, she said and disappeared. The taller man made a motion with his hand. Several shadows appeared and disappeared into the forest. He looked back to his spy. The spy reached for a weapon but he was not quick enough and was killed. He searched him for the information that he needed. Jacken and Yakumo walked back to their campsite with Anko in tow. They were tired and couldn't wait to get to bed. When they arrived, they saw no sign of Naruto. Hey Pipsqueak, are you around here? Jacken called out. The two females were searching for him when Anko heard a small whistle. She quickly tackled her two genin to the ground as kunai came flying out of the forest. That alerted everyone as 36 shinobi rushed out of the tree line. Anko was quick to her feet as was her genin. They met the charge and began to do battle. Naruto heard the sounds of battle and picked up the pace. He quickly moved back as the shuriken nearly hit him. Well, fancy seeing you again. A female voice called out. Naruto cursed as he did not have his staff with him. The girl stepped out in front of him and removed her hood. Naruto instantly recognized her. Midoshi, what the hell are you doing here? Naruto shouted. Now, is that any way to talk to a lady? Midoshi asked. Wait a minute, those robes, that guy was a spy, he exclaimed. Excellent deduction. Say, can you introduce me to your female friend? Her abilities are very interesting, she said. Hearing that, Naruto instantly got into a fighting stance. Midoshi just smirked at him. This would be a lot easier if you would just tell me where she is. Sorry, but I'm not one to do things the easy way. Besides, I won't allow you to harm my friends. Midoshi's smirk just got wider. She slid into her stance and got ready to fight. The camp was in total chaos. The Konoha shinobi did not know who these guys were, but they were going to show them that they had made a grave mistake. The genin did their best to help, but they were regulated to fighting at a distance. Only Team Anko and Team Guy were in the mix. They fought just as well as the Anbu, Jonin and Chunin. Two of the attackers charged at the Hokage. They were quickly stopped by the God of Shinobi, who had their throats in a vice grip. He quickly snapped their necks and dropped them to the ground. He looked toward his soldiers. Do not kill them all. I want some for questioning, he ordered. His personal guards nodded and went to do their duty. Hiruzen did not know what was going on, but he was going to get the bottom of it. Naruto and Midoshi engaged each other. Naruto went all out against the young girl. Midoshi dodged his thrusts and strikes of his staff. The two easily countered one another when they got close to each other. Midoshi blocked Naruto's thrust with her metal bracers. Naruto pushed her into a tree. As she was pinned down, he gave his staff a big push. Midoshi deflected the staff and the metal end smashed into the tree. She struck his hands to release his weapon. Naruto ducked under her punch, kicked up the other end of his staff and caught it again. Naruto kicked her in the side and brought his staff around to strike. Midoshi arced back to avoid the swing. She straightened herself and lashed out with a spin kick. Naruto ducked the kick, but he was in the way of her sash, which sped toward his head. He had no way to avoid and was skewered in the head. However, instead of blood, Naruto exploded into smoke. Confused, Midoshi felt something flying at her. She kicked the end of it, making it spin in midair. She sent it back to Naruto, who easily caught it. He dropped into his stance and waited for Midoshi. Midoshi analyzed him and began to stalk the blonde genin. He's pretty good. That staff style, it's similar to that of the Sandaime Hokage. Is this boy a student of his? So many questions, so little answers, I wonder what else he has up his sleeves. Midoshi thought. She's good, really good. She definitely trained in the snake fist, which will make this fight harder than it is. I bet she isn't even going all out. Naruto thought. So, are you going to honor my request? Midoshi asked suddenly. What do you want with my teammate? Naruto asked. It's nothing big. I just want to know how she can turn dreams into a reality. Come on, be a gentleman and lead me to her. She asked with mirth. Sorry, but her technique is a Konoha secret. I can't introduce her to you. He answered. Fine, Midoshi said in a huff. I guess I'll just end this fight. Midoshi began to release her chakra, which put Naruto on edge. She gave him a smirk and disappeared. Naruto raised his staff to block her strike, but Midoshi knife hand thrust split the staff and continued on its path. Naruto managed to jump back, but he was still nicked. He slid to a stop while Midoshi observed her fingers. That was a kill strike. I'm surprised that you avoided that, Midoshi said. Her grin got sinister. Let's see how long that will last. She disappeared and reappeared, catching Naruto in the jaw. She ran at him and hit him with several more strikes. Naruto recovered and jumped away to get some distance. He threw 3 shuriken at her and did some seals. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Shuriken Shadow Clone Technique, Naruto called out. The 3 shuriken turned into dozens of shuriken. Midoshi was impressed as she was showered with steel. Naruto took a deep breath as he looked at his work. He suddenly cried out when he was cut in the back. Midoshi appeared from out of the tree and began beating on Naruto in midair. Even as he was getting pummeled, he was still able to deactivate his last technique. They hit the ground, Midoshi on top of Naruto. Midoshi looked at Naruto with a smile. Well, I guess it's time to end this little dance. She cocked her hand back in a spear-like position. See ya. She threw her hand forward with great speed. Just as it was about to connect, Naruto caught her wrist. Midoshi was shocked and looked at him. She noticed that his whiskers were getting darker and his chakra was growing. She was yanked forward and was now eye to eye with him. What's happened to his eyes? My turn. Naruto growled and slammed his fist into her jaw. She was sent flying in the air and came to a stop on the tree. Naruto moved toward her with amazing speed. Midoshi saw him coming and launched her fist at him. It passed through his afterimage. She had no time to be shocked as she was hit from her side. She hit the ground with a boom. She quickly moved as Naruto punched the ground. She got to her feet and sprang forward toward Naruto. Naruto easily dodged her attack and countered. She managed to dodge his counter and got some distance. She landed and did some seals. Doton, Doryu Taiga. Earth release, Earth flow river, Midoshi called out. Futon, Detapa. Wind release, great breakthrough, Naruto shouted. With the chakra of the Kyuubi, the river of earth was stopped in its place. The two stopped their jutsu and glared at one another. They were both breathing hard and bruised. You've annoyed me for the last time, Kuchios no Jutsu. Summoning technique, Midoshi exclaimed. A huge boa stood in front of Naruto. It looked like the scales of the beast were made of iron. Naruto wasn't about to let her attack. Kuchios no Jutsu. Naruto called out. What appeared was a toad, the same height and size of Midoshi's boa. The toad had battle armor and was wielding a sickle. Midoshi was shocked to say the least. This boy had an answer for everything she did. It brought a grin to her face. Now, we're talking. Let's go, she exclaimed. Bring it, he exclaimed back. As the summons were about to charge, Midoshi's partner appeared next to her. He placed his hand on her shoulder. That's enough, Midoshi, we have to go. The male voice said. Get away from me. This just got interesting. Midoshi yelled. No, we got what we came for. There is no time for this. The Hokage is on his way here. He stressed to her. Midoshi growled at him. She turned to face Naruto. This isn't a forfeit. We will finish this battle another day. Count on it. She said. She did a few seals and she was gone, as was the snake and her partner. Naruto kept up his guard until he was sure that they were gone. Once he was sure, he sent the road back home and cut off his connection with the Kyuubi. As he observed the area, the Hokage, with his guards and his team, appeared. Naruto gave them a grin. Hey guys, what took you so long? Naruto said before succumbing to his injuries. 2 days later, Hiruzen sat with his advisors and ninja commanders. He looked in front of him and stared at the man who stood in the middle. You may begin your report on Ibiki. Hiruzen said. Thank you, Lord Hokage. I talked with Uzumaki Naruto about the events 2 days ago. He was about to go to sleep when he noticed a shadow moving away from the camp. He investigated and came across one of our men with 2 figures in cloaks. He believed that he would have been seen if he attempted to get closer and left to inform his sensei. On the way, he was stopped by Midoshi and had to engage her. He informed us that she was interested in the abilities of Anko's other student, Yakumo. Ibiki reported. Who is this Midoshi? Asked Shikaku. Midoshi is a child the same age as Naruto. Despite her age, she is very skilled in the shinobi arts. She made sport of Anko on her team's first C-rank mission. All that is known is that she holds power over those who have signed the snake contract. Hiruzen explained. I thought that Orochimaru was the holder. Hamura asked. It seems that is not the case. He replied. Is Anko still able to summon? Asked the ANBU commander. Yes, but the reason behind it is still unknown. When there were no more questions, Hiruzen motioned Ibiki to continue. As the Hokage said, Midoshi is very skilled in the shinobi arts. Naruto explained that he had to resort to using the Kyuubi's chakra in order to fight her. They both used the Kuchios no Jutsu and were about to attack when her partner arrived. She warned him that their battle was not over before she left. Ibiki said. Perhaps we should limit missions given to Team Anko that would take them outside of the village. Koharu spoke. That would not be wise, elder. Anko can be troublesome if she is cooped up in the village. Ibiki informed her. Some of the Jonin commanders nodded and sighed as they had to deal with a restless Anko. Still, this Midoshi is interested in the Kurama heir. It would not be wise to put her out in the field where she may get captured. Hamura said, I understand your concerns and have expressed them to Team Anko. They are in great disagreement for being held back, as are the members of the Kurama clan. They advise me that they trust Anko and her teammates to keep her safe. I also believe that it would be a mistake to hold back one of our best genin teams. Besides, we have more pressing matters. Hiruzen said. He turned his attention back to Ibiki. Have you found out who that man was? We have. His name is Ishikawa and is of Chunin rank. He wasn't a well-known Chunin and his service record wasn't impressive. We were able to identify him by his dental records. We have begun our investigation and are checking our records. We are checking to see if anyone has ever met or dealt with Orochimaru in the past. He said, don't only go by that. Orochimaru would not be so careless. Hiruzen said. Ibiki nodded and Hiruzen ended the meeting. Midoshi lay in her personal hot spring in the home of the serpents. She was annoyed by the fact that she had to spend 3 days home recovering. Even the healing properties of the spring didn't speed up her recovery. She sighed and looked up to the skies. She replayed that fight over and over again. That boy was good, but she should have been able to finish him. She knew that the Kuchios no Jutsu was a high skill to have. She knew that the toads, who were the enemy of the snakes, had only one summoner named Jiraiya. Did that mean that he was his student? Then there was that chakra. No way was that natural. It felt animalistic and feral. That lust of blood and that strength, it was scary and oddly alluring. She was curious about it and wanted to know what it was. That was kind of her thing when something that interested her. That blonde was certainly interesting, him and his power. It just brought up a lot of questions and so little answers. It frustrated her not knowing. She continued to lie in the water and let her thoughts flow. Well now, you have become very interesting. Your teammate doesn't even compare to you. We are not finished, my little blonde rat. I will get my answers. Naruto groaned as he lay on the ground of his apartment. His legs gave out on him since he was dead tired from his team's training session. Anko was driven to make her team ready in case they ran across Midoshi again. He could tell that she was not happy about the fact that she was interested in her team. She told them straight off the bat that they would be going through intense training for a while. Luckily, they did missions in the morning so that they would not be strapped for cash. Still, Anko was relentless in her training methods. Yet, he did not complain as he did not wish to rely on the chakra of the Kyuubi every time he fought strong opponents. He managed to turn over to his back and stared at his ceiling. He tried to move but his body refused to listen to him. He cursed and struggled to move. That's when a familiar face looked down on him. It was Kakashi. You look comfortable. He joked. I would flip you off if my body would allow me. Naruto grumbled. Anko's pushing you and your teammates hard, huh? Kakashi asked. He picked Naruto up and dropped him on the couch. Naruto groaned and glared at the masked Jonin. He then sighed. I don't mind it. I think that she's just worried about Midoshi's interest in us. Besides, I don't want to be dependent on the fox's chakra. Next time we meet, I'm going to fight her with my own strength. Naruto proclaimed. That's very good to hear. Kakashi said and he placed a scroll down on his coffee table. Naruto was curious about it. What's that? It's something that will help you in your quest. Kakashi said and disappeared. Annoyed by his friend's attitude, Naruto forced himself in a sitting position. He grabbed the scroll and read the title. Fuinjutsu, Seal Technique, for the Simple-Minded, Naruto read. He stared at it in silence for a while before talking again. All right Kakashi, you've just made my list. It would be 3 weeks of hard training before Anko eased up and allowed her team another C-rank mission. They stood in front of the Hokage. There was a woman standing in the room. She was wearing a high-price kimono and looked very beautiful. She gave the team a once-over. Her attention lingered a little on Jacken. That was something that Anko did not miss. The team stood at attention and awaited their orders. This is Tanaka Aiko. The daimyo of no Kuni, land of bean jam, is requesting a team to guard her as she makes her way to him. Hiruzen began. Is there someone after you, Aiko-san? Asked Yakumo. You can say that. Actually, it is my profession which brings me unwanted attention. Aiko said. What profession is that? Asked Anko. I deal in the service of pleasure. I am actually a present for Daimyo's son. He is becoming a man in a week. Aiko said with a smile. Jacken seemed to frown at that and tuned out the rest of the conversation. Aiko noticed this but gave no reaction to it. So when can we leave? Aiko asked. Okay guys, pack for at least 2 days. We'll meet at the gates within the hour. Anko ordered. Yes ma'am. And that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it and until next time. Later.